Mr. Clerk, we are reporting out of closed session. We have 4 items, 4.1, Équipe negotiations, proposed strategy and mandate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, council reporting out of closed session. The first item is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Someone like to move that? Councillor Gallo, second. Councillor Weese, record a vote.
Record vote for the first item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Kim, how do you vote? Councillor Kim votes yes. Councillor Gilliland? Councillor Gilliland votes yes. Mayor Mrakas?
Yes.
Councillor Gartner?
Yes.
Councillor Gartner votes yes. Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson votes yes. Councillor Gallo? Councillor Gallo votes yes. And Councillor Weese? Councillor Weese votes yes. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. 4.2, appointment of members to the Committee of Adjustment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Someone like to move that? Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Gardner. Record a vote.
Record vote for the second item of council reporting out of closed session. Mayor Mrakas, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo, how do you vote? Councillor Gallo votes yes. Councillor Gartner?
Yes.
Councillor Gartner votes yes. Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson votes yes. Councillor Kim? Councillor Kim votes yes. Councillor Gilliland? Councillor Gilliland votes yes. And Councillor Weese? Councillor Weese votes yes. The motion carries.
4.3, appointment of members to the Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee.
Motion.
First, you got to give me the
sorry.
motion.
My mistake. Motion for the third item of council reporting out of closed session is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Thank you. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gallo, second. Councillor Gilliland. Recorded vote.
Recorded vote for the third item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Gilliland, how do you vote? Councillor Gilliland votes yes. Councillor Weese? Councillor Weese votes yes. Councillor Gallo? Councillor Gallo votes yes. Mayor Mrakas?
Yes.
Councillor Kim? Councillor Kim votes yes. Councillor Gartner?
Yes.
Councillor Gartner votes yes. And Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson votes yes. The motion carries.
Thank you. 4.4, appointment of members to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee.
Motion for the fourth item of council reporting out of closed session is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Mover. Councillor Kim. Councillor Weese. Recorded vote.
Recorded vote for the fourth item of council reporting out of closed session. Mayor Mrakas, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson votes yes. Councillor Gartner? Councillor Gartner votes yes. Councillor Gallo? Councillor Gallo votes yes. Councillor Kim? Councillor Kim votes yes. Councillor Gilliland? Councillor Gilliland votes yes. And Councillor Weese? Councillor Weese votes yes. The motion carries.
4.5, appointment of members to the Council Compensation Ad Hoc Committee.
Motion is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Mover, seconder. Councillor Gardner. Councillor Weese. Record a vote.
Record vote for the fifth item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Thompson, how do you vote? Councillor Thompson votes no. Councillor Gartner, how do you vote? Councillor Gartner votes yes. Councillor Gilliland, how do you vote? Councillor Gilliland votes yes. Councillor Kim, how do you vote? Councillor Kim votes yes. Councillor Weese, how do you vote? Councillor Weese votes yes. Mayor Mrakas?
No.
Councillor Gallo, how do you vote? Councillor Gallo votes yes. The motion carries.
Thank you. Confirming bylaw. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gallo. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gardner. Councillor Kim. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Mr. Clerk, time is 7:04. I'm going to call this council meeting to order. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. a shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? We have addition of delegations, so I'm going to need 2/3 on this. Moved by Councillor Weese, seconded by Councillor Gardner. Call the vote. Councillor Gilliland? Yes. Councillor Gilliland's yes. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Community presentations, we have one. Renée, Northrup, in regards to the International Robotics Competition. Renée, welcome. Good to see you in person. Good to see the entire team here.
Hello, bonjour. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak with you tonight. We are Équipe Francobotique, a first LEGO League robotics team based in Aurora. We have participated in the first LEGO League for the past 4 years. We are a 2-time provincial champions and 2-time national champions. This year, we won the Ontario FLL Championship, and we are selected to represent Canada at the International FLL Razorback Open Invitational in May. This is an honor to attend this competition. 80 champion teams from 12 different countries will be attending this competition to compete in the robot game and present their innovation projects to judges over the 5 days of competition.
The FLL program has 2 major components, a robot game and an innovation project. Both follow an annual theme. This year's theme is energy. Since our innovation project aligns so well with Town of Aurora's electrification plans for the town's vehicles and with the town's energy green initiatives, we would like to tell you a little bit about our innovation project and ask you for your feedback.
After extensive research on the energy theme, we decided to settle on the following problem. Switching to electric vehicles can greatly reduce greenhouse gas emissions and help combat global warming. But their use will significantly increase our demand for electricity, and their environmental benefits depend on the sources of this electricity. How do we provide additional, locally generated, renewable energy to power our electric vehicles without requiring major infrastructure changes?
Most charging stations are installed where people work, play, and live. Since daytime charging aligns with peak solar output and nighttime charging aligns with wind output, our solution seeks to retrofit existing infrastructure near public charging stations with a combination of solar and wind energy generators. Renewable energy will be generated on site and used to charge the vehicles parked there, using the EVs themselves as a large collective battery. This will help offset the need for additional energy generation and storage and will prioritize the use of renewable energies.
We started out by researching small-scale solar and wind energy generations. We wrote design specifications for each. We then visited the public EV charging stations in Aurora and Newmarket and created a comparison chart to choose our model site. We chose the Upper Canada Mall for our model because it has a large flat roof, a big exposed parking lot, many lampposts, and charging stations in the middle of their lot.
We first designed our model in Google Slides. We consulted Plug and Drive and the EV Society to refine our 4 proposed green energy retrofit phases.
We researched existing solutions for the installation of wind turbines and solar panels. We wrote comparison pro-con lists to select appropriate solar panels and wind turbines for our model site, and then put together a cost analysis for each of our 4 proposed phases. We obtained 2 professional quotes from Azimuth Solar Products and Resco Energy, which allowed us to validate our cost analysis.
We then met with Michael Scott, Resco Energy Manager of Technology and Innovation. Resco Energy installed solar panels on Yorkdale Mall, and to our surprise, will be installing solar panels on the roof of Upper Canada Mall. Michael Scott was very impressed with our solution. Our rooftop area calculations were almost the same as his. We also chose some similar solar panels.
After completing our cost analysis, we met with Sebastian Contreras, climate change analysis for the town of Aurora. We learned about CO2 emission calculations per province and how to calculate the equivalent kilometers driven. We added an environmental benefit analysis to our model.
Active 30-to-1 scale model of the Upper Canada Mall with all 4 of our green energy retrofit phases. Everything you see here is built to scale. We partnered with the Aurora Public Library to 3D print our model components. You select the month of the year and which of the 4 retrofit phases you want to include. The LCD screen then outputs the energy produced, the CO2 emissions saved, and the energy cost savings.
We visited the parking lot of Upper Canada Mall to measure using trigonometry the heights of the lampposts in the mall itself. We counted the number of lampposts in the mall parking lot using Google Maps and estimated the number of solar panels that we could install on the mall roof, taking into account safety regulations, setback and maintenance regulations, as well as all the rooftop furniture. Our calculated values are also based on the average wind and solar intensities for Newmarket and the average price of electricity in Ontario.
Our 4 proposed retrofit phases use the existing infrastructure of the mall and its parking lot. Our 4 proposed retrofit phases can be installed in any combination, individually or in any combination. Phase 1 is the solar panels installed on the mall roof. Phase 2 is a pergola-style solar awning installed over the existing charging stations. Phase 3 is the installation of vertical axis wind turbines and solar panels on the existing tall lampposts. Phase 4 is a slightly smaller vertical axis wind turbine and more solar panels installed on the existing smaller lampposts.
Seeing is believing. The purpose of this model is to encourage owners of large buildings, exposed parking lots, to consider generating renewable energy on their properties to power the EVs charging stations installed there. After all, our switch to electric vehicles is only as green as the energy used to charge them.
We presented our model to the property and operations managers of Upper Canada Mall. They absolutely loved our proposed green energy retrofits. They validated our area and lamppost calculations and our cost analysis. The managers of Upper Canada Mall were particularly interested in our combination of both wind and solar retrofits. They loved our pergola-style solar awning as well as our hybrid lampposts, stating that the mall roof is too old to be able to support the weight of solar panels, but that our solar awning would be easy to build and our hybrid lampposts would be a great solution for the dark mornings and nights, especially during the winter months. They shared our work with Oxford Properties head office. Oxford Properties is going to look into implementing our solar awning and hybrid lampposts, not only at Upper Canada Mall, but at their other properties across the globe.
While the model is quite informative for Upper Canada Mall, this site is only one of the several EV charging sites that we studied for our project. We noticed that the town of Aurora has several public EV charging stations. We also noticed the construction of several new commercial buildings with large flat roofs and exposed parking lots in our town. For example, Farm Boy and Home Sense are located at the top of a hill and are surrounded by fields. Their parking lot is fully exposed and perfect for both sun and wind energy generation.
We would like to encourage all municipalities, including our own, to consider using existing infrastructure to generate local energy to power public EV charging stations. As our next step, we plan to create a green energy retrofit calculator that would allow individuals to input their rooftop area and number of lampposts, and then obtain a personalized cost, energy, and environmental benefit analysis. We were wondering if the town of Aurora would be interested in collaborating with us on our next step in our innovation project.
But wait, what about the robot? Aren't we a robotics team? That's right, remember, the FLL program has 2 major components, a robot game and an innovation project. Now that you have heard a little bit about our innovation project, here's a quick video of our award-winning robot.
Our robot called Spot can achieve a perfect score in the robot game. He completes all 15 missions in this year's FLL robot game in under 2.5 minutes. Our robot won first place Robot Performance Award and first place in the Alliance Challenge at the Ontario First Lego League competitions in January. And we're making them even better. Our goal for the international competitions is to score a perfect match. Go Spot, go.
As Ontario provincial champions, we will be representing Canada at the International FLL Razorback Open Invitational in Arkansas from May 17th to 21st. In order to participate in this competition, we are currently seeking sponsorship and donations from local companies and organizations. To raise a proportion of the required funds ourselves and to share the robotics expertise with our community, we are also providing 10 robotics workshops from up to 250 students in 2 different elementary schools in March.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Oh,
Thank you for your time and support.
thank you. Yeah, Council, can I get a motion to receive first? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming today and showing council and everybody in the audience all the innovative and smart ideas that you have for EV. I understand all the hard work that you guys have done to get here. I have the luxury of being a judge this weekend for FRC, so I'm very familiar with what you guys have to do. So I do congratulate you for your win, your championship, because it does take a lot of grit to get to where you are. I did have a couple of questions, although it seems like you've answered them. Like, I'm going to ask these. One of them was about your, sponsorships and, how do you fund your program? Because I do know that you do need to go out and seek that. And you did mention that you have some 10 robotic workshops for elementary students that you're going to be offering in March. So if you could just kind of let me know, or what do you let me know if there's an age group and some dates and if there's a place that they could go to register for that.
So our workshops are for 2 different schools, École Saint-Jean and Viamonde. And there's 10 different workshops. So we repeat them in each schools. So there's 5 different ones. And there's 2 for the younger group. So JK to grade 3. And then there's an older age group, which is from grade 3 to grade 6. And we use the spike primes in the older grade age group, and we use the we-dos in the younger age group.
Councillor?
That's great. And how do they register or how can they do it? How can they get involved?
So unfortunately, the registration is only for the students in those schools, but we will be at the FRC competition that you mentioned at Ray 20 on the 4th of March, I believe. And we will be teaching anyone who wants to go there to learn how to code with some Spike Prime robots.
Councillor?
That's great. So clearly, was my other question is like, do you mentor other kids, which you do? Do you have mentors yourself? Like, do people do you?
So we don't have mentors, but our 3 coaches are actually our parents. There's 4 of us, which are siblings, and our mom and our dad are both coaches. And then Emily here, her mother's also a 3rd coach.
Councillor?
That's great. I do have a technical question for you in relation to your chargers. Just a great idea. Do you have a level that's associated with your chargers, such as 1, 2, or 3?
Presently, in our model, we are using level 2 chargers, Leviton level 2 chargers.
Great answer, Danielle. We also, it's not currently in the Upper Canada Mall, but we've added a level, a supercharger for the Tesla cars. And we have as Danielle mentioned, the 2 Leviton chargers that are level 2 that are presently in the Upper Canada Mall.
Councillor?
That's great. And one last question. How did you all contribute to this project? I mean, it's such a great, innovative idea. Were you in groups and you kind of were in charge in certain components of this project? Or How collaborative would that work?
So normally we would all meet up at one of the coach's house, and we would all work together on everything. But sometimes we would delegate tasks to do in homework based on strengths and interests around the team.
Councillor?
That's great. Well, thank you so much. I see a lot of other councillors are eager to ask you some questions. Hopefully you'll have a chance to speak with our climate change analyst, Sebastian, because I think it's great that you have these conversations with us, and hopefully we can continue on with these conversations. Thanks.
Councillor Weese?
Thank you. I see by the smile on Ms. Northrup's face that she's very proud of you, and I want to congratulate her for the choreography of this whole thing today, because it was very well done and you answered the questions tremendously. If there's any doubt about the capabilities of our youth, it should be dispelled tonight. I mean, I recall when recycling wasn't a big thing and it suddenly went into schools and it became a big thing because of what teachers and what students did, bringing it home to parents. So I think the same kind of messages are going on here. And thank you for thanking your parents, because they're behind you all the way, just like in sports or anything else. You did mention sponsorship. So I didn't catch it all, but I think one of the important things of the council here is that we can expose worthy causes to sponsorship opportunities. Can you tell me a little bit, or can someone tell me a bit about what your sponsorship plans are, your targets, and how you're going about that, in case somebody's interested and wants to help out?
So we have a sponsorship package that we can that we give to sponsors, and currently we have quite a bit, but we still have a bit to go for our goal to go to the competition. Some of our major sponsors are Flow. The town of Aurora has donated, promised $2,500. And another major sponsor was Electra.
Thank you.
Councillor?
Thank you. I just want to say thanks for the presentation and good luck in Arkansas.
Okay. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. And similar to Councillor Weese, certainly want to congratulate you on all your accomplishments. It's fantastic. And for the presentation, similarly, I think it's great that the town is going to continue the conversation around sponsorship and supporting your efforts to continue to go on at the competition in Arkansas. But even further than that, now, hopefully, and perhaps we can talk about it under new business later in the meeting, but maybe there's an opportunity to collaborate some more and put you in contact with Lisa House, who's our manager of economic development. And maybe there's other things that we can do in collaboration to further the initiatives in the town of Aurora. In the past, we've initiated different applications to develop funds for green initiatives, and perhaps there's an opportunity there to look at other ways to utilize your tremendous talent for the betterment of the community. So thank you very much for being here tonight.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. I just want to weigh in and congratulate all of you. The missing component of electric vehicles has always been, where do you get the energy to recharge them? And clearly you've spent a lot of time focusing in on that problem and came up with some wonderful solutions. And to get the ear of Oxford, that's an amazing thing. And if they end up implementing some of your ideas, that's fantastic. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. And notwithstanding the last speaker, I think it's hard not to notice that there's some serious girl power right over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
All right. I couldn't let you guys go without saying thank you, and thank you to your teachers for inspiring you guys to going to these great lengths. And thank you for helping clean up my mess. When you guys in your science, you're building things to clean up the earth. I know in my project, I just made a volcano that contributed to the CO2 emissions. So thank you for net zeroing my project from many years ago. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner?
I don't really have enough words to congratulate you and to thank you for being our hope for the future.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Thank you for coming this evening. It's quite exciting to see you guys come out here. I know your teacher Renee, I know we've had some conversations. I'm extremely proud and extremely excited, and I know that our whole community will be proud to see you guys down in Arkansas representing Aurora. I'm going to make sure not only, I mean, obviously we've already sponsored you as the town for 2,500, but also I'm going to make sure that we get you a flag so you can fly it proudly down there in Arkansas and let them know that you guys are from Aurora and that you guys are going to win that competition. Because I from seeing the innovation and what you guys have brought before us, it's quite clear that you guys are going to win. I'm going to put pressure on you guys and say you guys are going to win. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you guys back here with your trophy and for us to celebrate that. So I wish you all the best, all the luck. We'll be cheering for each and every one of you. Much successes. And when you get back, we'll continue the conversation to see how we can work with you guys through the town and implement some of your innovations. So absolutely. So thank you very much for coming this evening. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Also, Brock already got one. It's fine. While we're doing that, I'll call the vote. Thank you very much. That carries. Delegations, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. First up, Jeffrey Abrams, Principals Integrity regarding CS 23-008, Bill 5, Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act 2022. Mr. Abrams, welcome. You have 5 minutes, sir? 10? Council going to need to waive procedure. Mr. Abrams needs a little bit longer than 5. Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Weese, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Mr. Abrams.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor. Of course, I'm here at your invitation to contribute our thoughts to your discussion of the Town Solicitor's report on Bill 5, Stopping Harassment by Local Leaders Act. As you may know, Principals Integrity serves not only as the town of Aurora's Integrity Commissioner, but we've also been appointed as Integrity Commissioner for York Region, for East Gwillimbury, for Witchard Stouffville, and for about 50 other municipalities and other public bodies across Ontario. My remarks tonight are gleaned from our broad-based experience as an Integrity Commissioner. And I want to make 4 points this evening. Firstly, there is some egregious behavior, particularly related to harassing and bullying behaviors and to conflicts of interest, where objectively a member should be removed from office. Those occasions are fortunately rare, but the people who've lived those experiences are certainly deeply affected by them. 2, with respect to the matters addressed in Bill 5, important aspects can be implemented immediately and need not await legislation. 3, if the bill proceeds and if it establishes a route to the courts to remove a member of council, then there must be a mechanism for the Integrity Commissioner to determine and elect at the outset of an inquiry whether to proceed or not to proceed down a path leading to a potential removal from office. In our view, number 4, in our view, a more helpful legislative change would be to make it clear in the Municipal Act that municipalities, when considering Integrity Commissioner reports and recommendations, may impose constraints and remedies targeted to preventing and resolving the behavior complained of and preventing its reoccurrence. So to be clear, there have been times where behavior from members of council is egregious and can't be condoned. Bill 5 would seem to be a genuine attempt to protect the public and municipal stakeholders and staff and other members of council from those egregious behaviors, which would amount to breach of municipal harassment policies. But there are practical limitations and concerns in adopting the bill in its current form. The ultimate goal is to prevent very bad behavior and to deal with those who refuse to abide by the accepted standards of behavior. It is first, if it is the desire to require that municipal codes of conduct oblige compliance with harassment and workplace violence policies, as is set out in the bill, that can be done by regulation. In a blink of an eye in legislative terms. Ontario Regulation 5518 already prescribes 4 pieces of content for municipal codes: gifts and benefits, conduct, confidentiality, and use of resources. Adding new prescribed content does not require the passage of Bill 5. Our most serious concern with the bill is that it would increase municipal costs and undermine the clear public interest in seeking and obtaining expeditious resolution to a complaint involving behavior. We've observed in our Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, the MCIA complaint files, that the nature of an investigation will change if there is the possibility that at its conclusion, an application to a court for removal from office will be made. All investigations are, of course, done under the tenets of procedural fairness, but an investigation with the purpose of supporting a court application for removal, should council give that direction if or when a public report on a complaint is issued, that will take longer, become more litigious, and be more expensive. Importantly, a focus on preparing a case for eventual court application will interfere with the informal course correction opportunities that should be pursued. And even if a court application is undertaken, it will take more time and more money with uncertain outcomes. We know from MCIA case law that judges can be extremely reluctant when faced with the choice to remove a duly elected official from office and preferring to leave that decision to the electorate. If Bill 5 type legislation moves forward, rather than a council choosing to give direction to the Integrity Commissioner to commence a court application after an Integrity Commissioner concluded an investigation with a report, it would be best for Integrity Commissioners to triage prima facie harassment complaints and make an election, an early choice, whether removal from office is to be pursued if the facts alleged prove to be true. In that way, at the beginning stages of an investigation, removal from office would be on the table or off the table. And that's our current MCIA approach. If on, the focus would be on preparing a report that would support a court application. If off, because not every incidence of bad behavior should be addressed with the formality, expense, timeframes, and animosity associated with litigation, a less adversarial, less litigious approach should be taken. Integrity commissioners should be regarded, and you've heard us say this many times, as coaches and teachers and not cops and sheriffs. At times, though, with respect to the most egregious MCI breaches, for example, in the case of egregious workplace harassment behaviors, the court could be a remedy. The potential of removal, though, should not drive every investigation. And let's not lose sight of the benefits of the existing integrity commissioner process. Clearly, it would not be a satisfactory outcome in a serious harassment case if an aggrieved victim had to wait for elongated and uncertain remedies for the conclusion of a court application and any resulting appeals, when integrity commissioners are able to recommend sanctions and remedies in a few short months. It should be clarified, however, that not only can councils impose a reprimand or a suspension of pay in response to an integrity commissioner's recommendations, the legislation should confirm that you are able to impose means by which the offending member's behavior is immediately constrained, notwithstanding their continuing role as a council member. If a council member abuses staff, deny them the right to have staff, or require that someone else hire them without the councillor's input, or require chaperones, or constrain the times and days the official may be on premises, or require them to abide by a security plan, have it operate like a restraining order, or require that they participate in training. These practical, curative, and almost immediate remedies need but not be restricted to harassment cases. If a financial transgression is involved, deny them a corporate credit card or deny them the discretionary budget others on council have. If a breach of confidentiality, maybe they can't attend in closed session. If microaggressions in the course of council meetings is the issue, allow for their speaking privileges to be limited. Council should be able to impose constraints and remedies targeted to preventing and resolving the behavior complained of and preventing its reoccurrence when considering recommendations from its integrity commissioner. We support the objective of Bill 5 in principle, but as is often the case, it is in the details where it falls down. This is an important issue to a lot of people. It is important that it be gotten right. Those are our thoughts on the matter. I'm happy to answer your questions. I know the items on your agenda, so I'll stick around for. I understand there's another delegation this evening, and I can answer your questions now, later, or both. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Abrams. Council, first, can I get a motion to receive and refer to CS 23-008, Bill 5, Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act 2022. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gallo, any comments or questions for the John Gallo? Oh, Councillor Gallo.
Thank you.
I literally read it right off.
That's okay, no problem. Through you, Mr. Mayor, just so I'm clear, it's your view that if this was to be implemented, that the normal course of action that you would take would be seriously diverted, that you wouldn't do what you would normally do.
Mr. Abrams?
The concern we have is that if adopted in its current form, anytime an allegation of bad behavior occurs, we have to contemplate that some date in the future, after we deliver our report, the council is going to say, we want you to go to court in order to remove this person from office. And that changes the characterization of our work, put it that way, with both the complainant and the respondent in the matter. It changes the characterization because the risk is so high. And that, of course, and it has attendant costs and time limit and time impacts as well. So that's the concern. The way the bill is structured, it says, when you hear a report from the integrity commissioner on harassment, at that point, council can give the direction to go to court. If the option, and what I said in my remarks is that we know that courts have some reluctance to remove a member of council, an elected official, and it takes a long time to go through that process. So it's an uncertain result, and it takes a long time. And it can remain as part of this structure. But what we're saying is, let's move up a decision point where the integrity commissioner in these files has to elect a course of action. And from a practical perspective, that's exactly what we do now when we consider a municipal conflict of interest act concern. We elect at the beginning, are we going to go this route or that route? And very rarely we go with the court. I mean, it has to be super egregious in order to do that. The difference is also, I can certainly contemplate in a municipal conflict of interest act concern, was what this, I understand, bill is based on. In that situation, we do the review, we form a conclusion whether or not we're going to go to court. And so we are prepared for that decision when we come to council and say, not can we have direction to go to court? No, council, we're informing you that we're going to court. That's in the municipal conflict of interest act scenario. In this scenario, we have to wait. We have to wait for council's decision. And so unless we have that election up front, we have to be prepared to write a report that is sufficient to hand over into the court process. And you can imagine with an allegation of harassment, how robust that would have to be. And I don't think that the writers of the bill have thought that through. There was another part to it, and that was councils have, you know that when you consider a recommendation report from an integrity commissioner, you can impose sanctions. There are two sanctions, a reprimand or a suspension of pay for up to 90 days. But you also know you have broad powers. You have the ability to do other things. We call them remedial things. We make remedial recommendations in our reports, recommending training or making a policy change or things of that nature. It's unclear whether you have as a council the ability to say to one of your number, we get it, you're an elected official just like the rest of us, but you're not going to have some rights and privileges that the rest of us have. You're not going to be able to be in the building alone. You're not going to be able to, as I mentioned, it doesn't even have to relate to harassment cases. You can no longer have a credit card. These are things that speak directly to the concern that was first addressed in the complaint. And so we think that if there is to be a legislative amendment, it should clarify that ability, because that can be done as soon as you hear the integrity commissioner's complaint. And the gap between complaint and report is 3 months. We have to offer procedural fairness. We have to do a thorough job. If you're a respondent, you're entitled to time to consider. You would give you a draft of the report, you consider it. So it takes about 3 months. And certainly that is a lot less time it would take for a court to hear in first instance an application to remove.
Councillor?
Thank you. It's far more clear for me, and I do appreciate your perspective. It's helpful for me to see from where you sit your views on this bill. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to kind of clarify, within the bill itself in general, you do support it in principle. Is that correct?
Mr. Abrams?
I support the intended purpose of the bill. I think the bill has defects, but I certainly support the intended purpose of the bill. Part of it I don't think is necessary. The bill would require codes of conduct to have members follow municipalities' harassment policies. That can be done by regulation tomorrow or the next day, but very quickly. So I don't think that's needed at all. It's redundant. And with respect to the part of the bill that speaks to removing an elected official from office, well, it's not sufficiently written. I support it in principle. I'm not sure. I think there are cases where removal from office may well be warranted. They're very rare. And our concern is that adopting the bill in the current form, while I agree with the purpose of it, will have significant impact on our ability as integrity commissioners to achieve the course correction we seek to achieve, whether it's in an informal resolution of a matter or in the way we make recommendations to council. So I do support the purposes in principle. I don't think the bill is sufficiently written. There was a consultation started by the ministry last summer on strengthening codes of conduct, and it spoke to the role of integrity commissioners. I haven't heard anything. We've made submissions on behalf of Miko, AMO, and others have made submissions. There are other things that could be done to make this area of municipal governance better. The better spot for this kind of legislation is a holistic response to whatever detailed concerns there are in how integrity commissioners operate and in what codes of conduct should contain.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I know you're speaking to legislation, but are you speaking specifically to our own municipal harassment policy and the kind of legislation that we're building within our own backyard, or are you talking more at a provincial or federal level?
Mr. Abrams?
Speaking to the bill.
Okay.
And the bill would require, it's redundant in two ways. Most municipal codes of conduct require compliance with local harassment policies anyways. But to the extent that municipalities aren't doing that, they could be required to do that by regulation under the current legislation. It doesn't require it.
Councillor?
Yeah, I understand. Thanks.
Any other questions? Call the vote. That carries. 6.2, Gord Kerr, Aurora Pickleball Group, Jane Snape, Aurora Senior Center Group regarding motion 10.3. Gord, welcome. You have 5 minutes. Floor is yours.
Thanks. I'd like to say hello to the mayors, councilors, and all the pickleballers that are here today. Just to let you know a little bit about myself, I've lived in Aurora for over 35 years. I been in sports, tennis, and construction of facilities since 1978. And I have unfortunately haven't put a lot of pickleballs, but put a lot of other types of facilities in. I'm here though tonight to talk about the future of outdoor pickleball in Aurora. Jane will talk about the indoor courts later on, but here I'm just talking about the outdoor courts. As most of you are aware, that pickleball is a very fast-growing sport here and around the world, with many multi-court facilities being installed around you, all over the place, and even worse if you go to Florida. We have over 300 plus pickleballers that we know of in Aurora. There are a lot more that haven't bothered to sign up. They don't play a lot, but it's mainly because they have no place to go. So we are here to ask Aurora to get some pickleball, because the two dedicated pickleball courts that are at Maverick Park will not support. And those are the only two courts that you have for all of Aurora. And it just cannot support the pickleball players. So it is time to start forgetting about what we haven't done and focus on how we can get Aurora back on the map by upgrading the existing surfaces with more pickleballs this year. So what we want to do is, if we got a tennis facility that is being underutilized, let's put pickleball lines on top of them so that we can integrate, or get rid of them so that we can make a dedicated pickleball courts. And what we also want to do is start planning for the future by putting in anywhere from a 6 to a 10 court facility, because having 2 courts here, 2 courts there just doesn't do it. You want to have establish a club in the area. So you want a minimum of 6, preferably 10. And then you can have a proper facility, and then you can start encouraging other people from around other municipalities to have tournaments. It's going to bring in revenue to Aurora, and you're going to get yourself back on the map. So we want to make sure something like that happens. We know that your neighbors, Richmond Hill, they've got over 20 indoor courts. They're putting in a brand new 16-court facility outside at the observatory this year. Bradford put 5 new beautiful courts in with lights and everything. Up north of you, Stovall is put 8 courts in last year. And East Gwillimbury up north of Sharon, they're putting in $76.5 million sports complex park with pickleball, everything in it. We've got nothing. So, you know, a lot of people think pickleball players, you know, you have to be a certain age, like 60 to 70 to play, or 80. That's not true. We got 16-year-olds, you got 8-year-olds, everybody wants to play. It's being taught in the schools, it's being taught everywhere. And those people, they want to get out with their families and they want to start playing, but they can't because they have no place to go. So we need to find some place that we either retrofit or put, next slide. And this is an example of how we can put 4 pickleball courts on 2 tennis courts without interrupting tennis. So what we do, we say, okay, pickleball players, you play Tuesday morning, tennis, you play in the afternoon, and then you just adjust the whole time and everyone can play together without any issues. At least that gets you some instant pickleball courts for now. And then in 2 years, we can plan, next slide. No, not that one. Well, that's not very good. Any next one? That is at the park at Edwin Cole. I've measured it all up, and we could put a maximum 12-court facility in there. I think we should cut it back to 10 so that we can put some stuff down the middle and a clubhouse and everything. You've got I won't say about the other ones, but that's good for the slide. So we need to get a program with Aurora that we can get together so that we can get a program and say, okay, in 2 years, we're going to go to this park or this area and get a facility of this. Some of these places already have power, already have sewage, all have that. All you need is bulldozers. So, we want to get in with the other clubs that, soccer, they've got new $1 million facility. Tennis has got big facilities. And if we have to help you, if we have to do some fundraising or something, I am more than willing to, you tell me what park you want to do and I will design it. I'll put it all together and give you some budget proposals so that you can put it out to tender.
Mr. Kerr, if I can just ask you to wrap it up, you're way past the 5.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, anyway, does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. Council, first, can I get a motion to receive and refer to 10.3? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Thompson, any questions? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you for coming, and I'm certainly in support of trying to expand facilities for pickleball users. Just wanted to ask you, I believe that the ball makes quite a lot of sound.
The ball, it's a plastic ball hitting a fiberboard. It makes a sound, but it's not that noisy. And
It's not bad
people
unless-
get used to it.
Councillor.
I was going to say it's not bad unless you're living very close to it. So that was my question, where the second suggestion for the pickleball courts, it's surrounded by residential homes. I mean, I like the idea of putting something in place before homes are built so people are aware that the pickleball courts are going to be coming, or to use an industrial area.
Fences or trees can deaden the sound. And also, you can restrict it till nothing after 9 o'clock at night. But during the day, not if people are home and no one's sleeping, so it's fine.
Councillor.
Well, I'm thinking there's a nice big parking lot at Walmart, and the east part of it never seems to have anybody in it. So
That's true, but it's not yours and you'd
I
have to
know.
rent it and then you can't afford it.
well,
Councillor.
maybe they want the PR. Thank you.
Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Thank you, Gord, for coming and speaking today. I know that we have spoken quite a bit about pickleball, and you've corralled me out to see how the league performs in the winter months, which is, I think, great and amazing. I was shocked that you guys actually do that. I was actually introduced to pickleball right before the pandemic, but didn't have a chance to go and play, and did this last summer. And yeah, it is a great sport, and it has been increasing exponentially. I just wanted to say a comment as far as like being beside residential areas. Are the other courts that you play on, are they beside residential areas too?
Yes, they're put in all around. They're put in parks. They do maybe some tree planting, but yes, they're not just put in commercial areas. They're put next to residential places.
Councillor.
Thank you. And just the one question on the fundraising part, I think that's fabulous. You've got a network. And if there's some funding and fundraising that can be had, I'm sure that could definitely help in expediting development plan for pickleball. So it is good to know that there is support there. I hope that Aurora does join Pickleball Ontario or Pickleball Canada and forms a club and becomes, a professional organization. I do think there's a lot of room for growth in many different ways. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Councillor Weese.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kerr. We met earlier and Councillor Gilliland brought one of my questions up is about creating a club being organized for advocacy and coordination purposes. So I hope you follow up with that. And I'm going to leave a couple of other questions open, but because there are other people coming, but there's been some questions about the relationship between tennis and pickleball. And I know that in soccer with rugby, as they use the same kind of pitches, they've been able to work in a coordinated manner and to be able to cooperate well. And I hope that's the outcome here because we'd like to see as many of these courts done eventually, but we'd like to have some multi-sport and the two sports are able to work on the same fields, which helps us municipally as well. I do want to point out that we're in the middle of a Parks and Recreation master plan. And although that plan won't be coming out soon enough, are you suggesting that what you'd like to see happen here is something close to a pilot or something that would be done in the first instance?
We need something this spring just to get, because there's our areas and it's not that expensive to go and put some lines on to put either temporary nets or put some nets in. So it's not a big expense. But to wait 2 or 3 years, it's not going to cut it, especially when everyone around you is getting multiple courts and all we have is 2.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the question I had.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
I just wanted your perspective on, and maybe others who will also weigh in. If we were to move forward and put lines on current tennis courts, obviously lines are important for both sports. Are there examples of that functioning well right now that you're aware of?
I'm sure there are. There's lots of them around, and look what's happening with the indoor. If you go to the indoor, you've got 4 or 5 different colored courts: basketball, badminton, all types of stuff, and everyone plays together. It's just all you have to do is say pickleball is one time, tennis is one time, whatever sport, and just schedule it that way, and you'll keep a lot more people happy.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Kerr. Call the vote. Mr. Thompson. Vote. Got it. Yes. Councillor Thompson is a yes. That carries. So next we have 6.3, Jane Snape, resident, regarding the same motion. Jane, welcome. You have 5 minutes. Floor is yours.
When I moved to Aurora in June 1985, I'd never heard of the game of pickleball, although it was invented in 1975 in the US. I played tennis and squash. As you may know, I think you do know that I'm currently the pickleball coordinator for the Aurora Seniors Association. We offer beginner, women's and men's separate pickleball sessions and mixed doubles played both at the Aurora Senior Center and at the Aurora Family Leisure Complex. I maintain a list of about 200, an email list of about 200 Aurora Seniors members who are interested in pickleball. Yes, many of our members play outdoor pickleball in the summer, But for basically 6 months of the year, indoor pickleball is a definite requirement for the majority of our players. Our Seniors Association membership is extremely active, and we want to stay healthy and fit physically and mentally by playing pickleball. But we desperately need more pickleball indoor facilities so that everyone who wants to learn to play and enjoy pickleball can do so. The one pickleball court at the Senior Centre is used for the majority of our pickleball activities, a total of 13 hours. We use the 3 courts at the leisure complex for a total of 6 hours, but there is a huge demand for indoor pickleball play for all ages. You can see this by the popularity of programs that the town, in conjunction with Elevation Athletics, Justin's here, has offered for pickleball leagues for adults, and there are also now a couple of drop-in hours, one for families on Sunday morning as well. The leisure complex, though, can accommodate more pickleball hours according to the online availability that I can see. And I would like to request that at least the beginner program that is now run at the Seniors Centre be given time at the leisure complex so that the pickleball membership at the Seniors Centre can regain the general recreational time it had before the pandemic. We've had a huge influx of people, beginners wanting to learn to play pickleball. Please let me know who I should approach to put in a formal request for this extra time. Recommendation in the last Parks and Recreation Master Plan update in 2016 was to create opportunities for outdoor pickleball through the use of multi-use court template, e.g. lining new or existing tennis courts for both tennis and pickleball, and providing a minimum of 2 courts that are preferably located in an area having a high concentration of older adults. This experiment, which was conducted, I believe, at the Aurora Tennis Club, failed in this respect, as the time allotted to pickleball was in the heat of the day, and tennis players generally, sorry, Gord, are not in favor of sharing their courts with pickleball. Aurora needs a pickleball club, but you can't have a pickleball club without a dedicated pickleball facility. I think also you will definitely find that the focus of pickleball has changed to encompass a lot wider range of ages, not just older adults, and that tournaments now require locations not dependent on the weather, in other words, indoor pickleball courts. If you are serious about creating sports tourism with pickleball, you need both indoor and outdoor courts, and several in one location, not just 1 or 2 dotted around the town. Also noted in that 2016 report is the realization that our Canadian winters, freeze and thaw cycles, are very destructive for outdoor courts, both tennis and pickleball. It seems that a year-round bubble, such as at the Maryland Redwoods Tennis Center and the Aurora Soccer Dome, is far less expensive than a fixed structure. So a public-private partnership should be investigated. I wholeheartedly support Gord Kerr. I love playing outdoor pickleball, and all our pickleballs in attendance tonight. In the bid to improve the outdoor pickleball court supply in Aurora, as well as the indoor. There are only 2 outdoor dedicated pickleball courts, as Gord said, in Aurora, and they are in need of repair. It appears that in existing residential areas, there's a growing animosity to pickleball, because of the noise that it generates. And I do have a ball, I can tell you how loud it is. It's not a quiet sport. Maybe industrial areas should be looked into for pickleball locations. Lastly, the town of Aurora should be aware that pickleball is a very social game. We rarely set up games with just 4 people. As we do at the Seniors Centre, players are continually mixed up so that everyone plays with different partners and opponents for each game. Please note that pickleball court time should not be regulated for 1 hour of play the same way as tennis courts. If an Aurora pickleball club is set up, it should be able to book a daily time slot as the Aurora Tennis Club does now. Pickleball is affordable, easy to learn and play, and provides fun, friendship, and community for all ages. Please make sure that the new Parks and Recreation Master Plan includes both outdoor and indoor pickleball courts in future projections. And thank you for your time, and thank you to Rachel and Ron for the motion.
Thank you, Jane. Council, first, can I get a motion to receive and refer to motion 10.3? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Gallo. Any questions? Councillor Weese?
Thank you. And thanks for the pioneering work that you're doing in pickleball for this community, not just for seniors, and I appreciate it. This is a real great intergenerational opportunity too, because we have opportunities for older people to work with younger people, particularly in our schools, and that should be explored. And the other thing I want to comment on, thank you for, is the notion about sport tourism. Gord mentioned the same thing. I've spoken to other communities, and there's a big opportunity here to bring these social people into a social activity and enjoy healthy physical activity while they're still competing. So thanks very much for your presentation today.
Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor, to Jane. Thank you so much for coming today and speaking to us and bringing your crew. Wow, that's great. That's fantastic. Saw a few paddles out there waving, so that's great. I appreciate all your insight, especially specifically to indoor, because as much as we need outdoor, we need indoor as well. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully, within our master plan, being able to implement more of this, just as you said, as far as increasing the time slots within the family leisure complex or facilities. Definitely we can make sure that somebody from the town does connect with you and at least start the conversation to see if it's something that we can accommodate. Thanks.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I agreed with everything that you said and very well spoken, and your rationale for your comments are well founded. And particularly, I agree that there should be a pickleball specific facility. I'm going to need some convincing on this dual purpose suggestions, and I think we should really work hard towards that type of a thing. If there's a short term solution for this season where there's some sharing, okay, but I think the goal should be putting significant effort on a pickleball specific facility.
Councillor Gardner?
Jane, thank you so much. I know this has been a great interest for you for a long time, and I hope that we can figure out how to expand the facilities for your use and everybody's use and make it, I don't know, you said that there's some pickleball courts that aren't in very good shape. Well, the two that we have, I mean, we need to give this more respect because it obviously is so popular. Thank you.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure about anyone else, but when there was that huge encouraging applause, I got goosebumps. So my understanding is that in pickleball, you don't hit your prime until you're 80. So how does one play fair when a 50-year-old goes up against an 80-year-old? Is there a handicap?
Wait.
Thank you. I have to say, I'm very encouraged to see our seniors be so active and wanting to be healthy. And you have here a sport that's low impact, fun, and it's inexpensive to play. So it certainly it would behoove the town to start strategizing on something to ensure that our seniors are active and healthy. So thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Jane, thank you very much. Call the vote. That carries. Next, 6.4, Michael Bowcott, resident online regarding motion 10.3 as well. Michael, welcome. You have 5 minutes and floor is yours.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Just to correct, I'm not a resident. I live in Richmond Hill. But I'm coming to give you a perspective on everything that's happened in Richmond Hill. Because 3 years ago, I started the Richmond Hill Pickleball Network. It was shut down by COVID, never did anything with it. But over a year and a half ago, I started the network. And today we have over 900 members in the network that has grown by word of mouth. We are actually the largest network in Canada now. And I spent the last year working with council in Richmond Hill and was spearheading the building of the 16 dedicated pickleball courts. So in your presentation tonight, you've encountered, you've talked about some of the issues that you're going to encounter going forward. And that's why with pickleball, you have to be very careful what you do and where you place courts. I think you've touched on some of the issues you're going to encounter here. But I just want to give you a brief understanding of why this game is going to grow and why you're going to face increasing pressures for pickleball. And I'm coming from a grassroots perspective. By way of background, I was on the board of the Richmond Lawn Tennis Club for 10 years, and I was the president for 5 years. And never once in my 10 years did anybody come up to me and tell me or thank me for what we're doing here, because this game has changed their lives. When I started doing free lessons at a rundown tennis court in Richmond Hill, where the town agreed to paint some lines on there and give us dedicated hours, so we didn't conflict with the tennis players, the people that came out to them were mostly women. And by word of mouth, we grew from 0 to 150 by the end of the summer. And that was just working July and August. And the people were telling me how this game had changed their lives. People that showed up that I thought I would never see again kept coming back. They kept coming back and they kept getting better and better. And I said to one person, I didn't expect you to come back. You could barely hit the ball. She said, I had my husband out there every day at the tennis court playing with me. And there are numerous stories of how this game has changed their lives. So you'll hear stories about, the demographics, and you'll hear about the fact that, it's an easy game to learn and there's a very easy learning curve to it. But the reality of pickleball is that if you organize it properly, you're going to find that people are going to want to play and play more often. And it really does change people's lives. Just recently, the Liberal carried an article that I was featured in. I didn't realize it was being interviewed, but the reality was I wanted to highlight one of the people whose lives was changed. And it all came through pickleball and playing pickleball. And it told me that this is more than a game. It's more than a sport. I've kind of joked about it and referred to it as a therapy for many people. And you're going to face increasing demands over the next year or two. And just in Richmond Hill alone, as I said, we're up to 900 members. The city has moved forward at pretty great speed here with this proposal. We've just secured a facility in Vaughan where we're going to be offering more pickleball opportunities. And there's no doubt in my mind that Aurora is going to face these increased pressures going forward here. I think the key for you is to really put together a strategy for pickleball. You have to locate them in the right areas. You probably should go with a multi-court facility and try to avoid the expedient solution of painting lines on pickleballs, because you will create tensions between the tennis players and the pickleball players. And in truth, the pickleball players will dominate the courts. There's just numerous examples all over North America where that happens. If you go to Niagara Falls or Niagara on the Lake, you'll see that they did that and they shut them all down. All the pickleball courts they just put in. So going forward, you really have to find the right location, but you are going to face a lot of pressure for pickleball and the pickleball community. It's going to continue to grow. There's no stopping it. I know we had a lot of people from Aurora playing in Richmond Hill. Unfortunately, the demand became so high, we now ask for driver's license and utility bills to get into our programs. I'd like to have a day where we don't have to do that anymore, but this 16-court facility that we're going to build here is the right solution for pickleball, because it's in a location that is suitable for pickleball, and it's going to be a hub from which everybody will meet. And if you want to bring a community together, I have seen it firsthand. And if you want to experience, come to Rouge Woods Community Center on a Saturday morning. You'll see 60 players in a league that I started a year and a half ago. Different cultures, different backgrounds. The age is dropping dramatically. The average age is 52. And if you come out, you will see how this game will bring a community together like no other game I've been involved with. And so I would encourage you to build pickleball into your master plan, give it consideration, because there's no doubt in my mind that you are going to face increasing pressures. And as you run out of parkland and suitable places for these locations, you will be hampered. And that's this message that I sent to Richmond Hill. And they have really adopted this strategy, and they're really leading the way in this in terms of municipalities. Markham's probably second. They've just built 8 courts. Stouffville's built 8 courts. And if you look at Hamilton and Barrie, as soon as you build 8 courts, within a year and a half, you will need 8 more courts. Hamilton built 5 in 2015 or 6 in 2015. They now have 24. Barrie built 4. Last year, they just approved 8 more in the same location. They'll have 12 courts. If you build it, they will come. So you must put some thought into this. And I would avoid doing the expedient measures. We did that here in Richmond Hill in a town parking lot. It was an ideal location, but they put 10 pop-up courts in there, but they had big gashes through the courts that the ball couldn't bounce there. So you have to be very careful with your expedient solutions. And I'd be happy to work with you or answer any questions that you might have. So I just want to encourage you to give it due consideration, because I know you're going to face increasing pressures for more pickleball courts.
Thank you, Mike. Council, can I get a motion to receive and refer to 10.3? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gallo, Councillor Weese, question?
Yes, I just want to thank you for your expertise and for taking the time out tonight to help your neighbor to the north. I'm interested in 2 things. One is the pickleball network versus a club. And if you'll tell me whether there's a significant difference than that, because you seem to be doing the right thing. I realize you have greater population density than we do, but I'd like to hear about that. And then the second thing is when you're looking at facilities, what effect has, or is there been effect of commercial enterprises going and building bubbles or other types of facilities like that, rather than municipalities doing it themselves? I realize that'll probably be a greater cost to the user, but I wonder if you have any experience with that. Thanks.
Mike?
Yes. So on both of those cases, I've been on conference calls with groups from the States who want to come to Canada and do just that. They're looking for locations that they can lease. You actually in Aurora actually have a very interesting location that I actually wanted to do something with, but the for-profit enterprises are going to come, they're going to have a higher cost. And I've warned them, I said, look, if a municipality gets it right, like Richmond Hill is doing right now, you're going to have a hard time competing with them, because the land in Richmond Hill is already owned by the city. They have a different cost structure, and they don't necessarily have to make a profit, but they just have to provide a service that is in high demand. So that is happening, and you will see private for-profit enterprises coming. My belief is, and what I did in Richmond Hill was, I'm a tennis guy. I didn't think this was going to be as popular as it was. I was on vacation. I came back from vacation. When I was on vacation, we got called in to look at these guys playing pickleball. They're playing pickleball. We joined them. And to your Councillor Kim's question, myself and my buddy, who's from Aurora, were invited to play pickleball against 2 guys in their late 70s. And so as we walked over there, and we said, okay, we'll just take it easy on them. Well, it was the most humbling experience I had ever had. I spent the afternoon in my hotel room. Everybody else was at the beach looking at pickleball videos for 3 hours, because they play every morning at 7 o'clock. And I was determined to go back there and figure out why we were getting killed. Long story short, this is a leveler. If you come to Richmond Hill, you will see parents playing with their kids. You will see kids playing with their grandparents. I've never seen a sport like this where I can play with women, with older women, with younger women, and have a fun competitive match. It is an incredible game, but I created the network to prove to myself and also build a case for Richmond Hill, because I wasn't going to go before council and say, you got to build these courts. There's going to be a big demand for this. I wanted to show them what we could do. So we built the network up as it was just, the network is free software that we use. A friend of mine down in the States built it for tennis, and he started the pickleball one. I said, I got to have it in Canada here. So I started doing it, and I used that to build the network up. It cost me $15, and everybody goes on there for free. And we created these meetups and these socials, and we ran these lessons, and by word of mouth, it just took off. In the spring of 2022, I incorporated the Richmond Hill Pickleball Club as a not-for-profit. We're now getting affiliated with the city, and we're going to become a partner with the city. But that's where we're going to run most of the activities. We're just going to transition from the network over to the club. And just recently, I set up the York Region Pickleball Network and the GTA Network just in the last few days, because the demand is just so high, and we need to find facility. So we actually have a private facility that we're now using so that we won't have to worry about residential restrictions, and we'll be able to take some of the pressure off of you guys by having them come down to Vaughan to play pickleball.
Councillor,
Thank you.
Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike, for coming and speaking today about your experience. I know you'd mentioned some stuff about short-term versus long-term vision, and I think our motion's kind of two-pronged, meeting something short-term right away and piloting. And I know you and I had spoken, and although there are some concerns, like with anything that you're going to place, whether it's a dog park or a soccer field or a new trail, there's always things to consider. But for instance, like the noise and whatnot being by, homes, I know it's something to consider. But however, if you do a pilot, sometimes, and I think you were surprised, it wasn't a problem in certain areas. So, in your opinion, it's something that we should at least explore, figuring out where we can be. I mean, we are in a land deficit, we're in a time when, sharing facilities and multi-use are things that sometimes we need to turn to. So could you agree that, can work if it's managed properly?
Absolutely. And I have some really good ideas for you that I would explore right away. But just to give you some background, we did Town Park, which is backs onto residential area. It's 3 rundown tennis courts. And I said to the city, as part of the experiment was, let's see if we get any neighbor complaints, because if we do, we'll shut it down right away. At least we'll know. Honestly, with all the trees blocking it, not one complaint over 2 years. And we're playing there every night and on weekends. And we haven't had one complaint. I keep asking, say, are you sure we're not getting complaints? Not a complaint. I was shocked. I'm still shocked that we don't get any complaints. And then in Aurora, you have an area that you should explore. And I was half going to do it, but I'd be happy to work with you on a proposal or give you some ideas of what you could look at. But you have one area in Aurora that is prime for a temporary location, but you have to enter into some kind of agreement with the private owner of the land. But it's just a really ideal location. And I was going to pursue it myself, but I didn't think a lot of people in Richmond Hill would want to travel to Aurora. But as I've learned, people will travel just about anywhere if they can play.
Councillor.
Thank you, Mike. And I'm happy to have those conversations with you offline. And, perhaps that is something that can come to fruition. Just a quick question. I know you mentioned that you were part of the tennis club, or you managed it, you're president of it, and it was a number of years, and the growth within that period of time comparative to the growth in the short period of time of pickleball. If you could just kind of explain that, that would be great.
So the Richmond Lawn Tennis Club was started in 1960. And I joined the board in 2007, 2008. I became the president in 2012 to 2017, 18. And the club, at my peak, we got up to about 510 members. If you include all the young kids, we got maybe to 600 because we started a very successful kids program. But that took 60 years to get to those numbers. We are at over 900. I think we're at 910 or 920 today after a year and a half. And we have 2 pickleball courts, dedicated pickleball courts in Richmond Hill.
That's great. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bowcott, for delegating tonight and sharing your wealth of knowledge and your experience, and to all the residents who've come out tonight to show their passion. I mean, certainly when it comes to our roles and responsibilities, one of them is to meet the needs of our residents for today, but also to plan for the future. And so as we've talked about, there's a short-term need, but there's also a long-term need, because it's quite obvious that the demand for pickleball will continue to grow and expand. And so as we go through our master plan process and try and take a macro level, we need to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the residents and figure this out, because the demand is certainly not going away. It's only going to grow and be even more so. And I appreciate the feedback you provided from the Richmond Hill examples. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Call the vote. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Ms. Gallo? Did you do it? Mr. Kim, did you? That carries. Next, we have 6.5, Bill Maron, total tennis regarding motion 10.3 as well. Joining us virtually, Bill. Thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and thank you to Ron Weese for referring this delegation. I have a similar experience as Mike. I thought Mike's presentation and experience was fabulous. Similar experience, but it was a dual court facility in London, Ontario. So I had the opportunity to operate an indoor tennis club, which had 0 pickleball starting in 2018. And many people would come up to us and say, hey, you guys got to paint some pickleball lines. We love pickleball. There's lots of us. And eventually we painted 2 pickleball. This is all indoor. So we painted 2 pickleball courts on one of our tennis courts, one of our 8 tennis courts. And before we knew it, we had 150 pickleball players just loving it. Over the course of the next few years, that grew to 6 dedicated pickleball courts and 700 members, actual pickleball members. So over the course of that 5-year lease, of which almost a full year was shut down by COVID. So over the course of 4 years, we were able to grow the tennis membership from 130 to 450 players, which is a nice increase. But pickleball in the same period of time went from 0 to 700. So it can work. Realistically, all the presentations tonight have been very sensible, and I fully agree with them. If pickleball players can have their own courts where it's just pickleball, they're going to be much happier, no question. And tennis players are going to be a little reluctant to share their space with pickleball players who are a little more social. There's more of them in a smaller space. They're a little louder. And then you've got the dual lines. So tennis players are complaining that the pickleball lines are on their court and vice versa. So certainly players want their own type of surface and only their own surface. But we did have this club, this indoor club in London was open 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, 6 dedicated pickleball courts at the time and 6 dedicated tennis courts. So we had 300-400 people, every day in the facility, moving about, playing their game. After a little while, the tennis players who were reluctant to, invite pickleball players into the facility, after a while, they accept the sound of the ball hitting the paddle. They accept the kind of the jovial excitement of pickleball play. And they realize that realistically, any facility that you play a sport in, they're rarely perfect. So what I have come to know is you get used to your facility. It's not perfect. It might be a bubble with sloped, walls. It might be the lighting isn't exactly the way you like it. But we were able to make a success in London. And by all accounts, both sport memberships were quite content. Be happy to take any questions about that.
Thanks, Bill. Wasn't sure if you were finished yet, but I appreciate it. Council, if I first get a motion to receive and refer. Councillor Kim, Councillor Gardner, Councillor Gallo, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill, for providing your perspective. I just wanted to be clear on the London example you gave, that they were dedicated courts. They weren't multi-lined tennis players playing on, and pickleballers on the same court.
Yep.
So yeah, actually they were shared courts, especially early on. They were shared courts, and because it was a tennis club initially, we gave tennis players a longer booking privilege. They could book 7 days ahead. And what we found is the courts weren't filling up, all the time. So pickleball players could only book 3 days ahead any courts that weren't booked for tennis. And it was shared lines. So we did get the grumbling that, all their tennis lines, actually to be honest, the pickleball players never grumble about tennis lines. They were happy to be there and loved playing. Tennis players did grumble a little bit that there were pickleball lines on the court. So they were shared court surfaces with both lines. What we did was use a light gray paint for the pickleball lines. So it didn't really jump out at you and it wasn't that big of a distraction for the tennis players. And really only a small percent of our tennis players, would complain about the gray lines.
Okay.
Councillor?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You, Councillor Weese?
Thanks, Bill. It seems you've solved the perceived conflict between tennis and pickleball, or at least it's there and we're aware of the problem. But can you tell me a little bit about what's going on around here? Because I know you're a person who has your finger on the pulse of both tennis and now pickleball here. Can you give us, we've heard about Richmond Hill, but do you have any advice about what's going on in north of us? Or east or west?
Yes, for sure. And echoing what everybody has said tonight, the pickleball popularity is just, it'll grow faster than you think it will grow. So everybody's clamoring to play at so many different ages. Everybody thought of it as a senior citizen sport. We all heard that a decade ago, but realistically, the average age seems to be coming down every couple of months now. Just north of us in Newmarket, the town of Newmarket is building a 10 tennis court facility at the Shining Hill development at Yonge and St. John's Side Road. And they may or may not include pickleball courts at that facility, but they also have had meetings lately, same type of meeting with the pickleball growth. They are vowing to put in some more outdoor courts, look at some more indoor courts, if those happen to be a part of this new tennis court facility at Shining Hill or their own dedicated Newmarket pickleball indoor facility. So they are clearly trying to catch up, so to speak, to some of the other municipalities as mentioned tonight.
Councillor?
And Bill, you're also a person I know that's involved in tennis from a competitive standpoint. Do you see an opportunity for the growth of this to be something that's competitive in nature so that it could be a sport tourism opportunities for those people who have started out and have progressed quickly?
By all means, and for both sports in London, we held very serious high-level events. We'd have companies come in to run their pickleball championships on 12 courts. We would tape down some extra courts, and never a complaint the fact that they were pickleball lines on tennis courts. And we hosted many Ontario Tennis Association tennis tournaments. And what we did is we put all the important matches on our tennis courts without pickleball lines, but we used the tennis courts that had pickleball lines on them for warm-up sessions and consolation matches, etc. So it's definitely doable to have high-level tournaments at a shared facility.
Councillor?
Thanks, Bill, for your expertise.
Any other questions? Thanks, Bill. I'll call the vote. That carries. 6.6, George Skoulikas, resident, regarding motion 10.2. George? You have 5 minutes? One second.
Thank you. It's maybe something I said, everybody's leaving. You can stay for 5 minutes. Good evening, Mayor Mrakas, councillors, staff, everyone. My name is George Skoulikas. I am president of Henderson Forest Aurora Ratepayers Association. Tonight, I am speaking on behalf of HFARA members in strong support of Mayor Mrakas's motion regarding 672 and 684 Henderson Drive. I'd like to explain why. Firstly, I'd like to remind everyone why these lands are so environmentally important and therefore worth fighting for. The properties are covered in their entirety by Oak Ridges Moraine significant woodland and other overlapping key natural heritage features, including significant valley lands, and evaluated wetland and watercourse, Tannery Creek. The mature woodland contains many snags that have been identified as potential habitat for endangered bats. In addition, our local turtle volunteers have clear evidence that snapping and painted turtles have used the lands and have successfully nested at the property's edge. In fact, it's no surprise that at the LPAT hearing, it was agreed by both parties that the subject sites are unique and environmentally sensitive. In early December of 2022, the planner from Western Consultant, representing the new owner and developer, approached the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing with a request that would undermine due process and permit development where it's wholly unsuitable. The request is, and I quote, that the MMAH formally acknowledge that these lands are suitable for residential development and determine whether there can be a simplified approval process for sites with natural heritage features, such as the subject properties, to move through the development approval process. In essence, this 3-page request by the applicant's planning consultant is asking the ministry to ignore proper process in order to develop these environmentally sensitive lands. What's more, it's asking the ministry to disregard the methodology and decision previously made by Aurora's Committee of Adjustment, which was supported by Council, and decisions by LPAT to deny development of these lands. The LPAT decision alone, 52 pages of it, resulted from over 1,400 pages of expert testimony in an 8-day hearing. The applicant at the time even asked for a review of LPAT's decision. This was also denied. Basically, the applicant's planner has gone directly to the ministry in an attempt to accomplish a 3-page request what has failed using proper public democratic process. This is completely unacceptable. In conclusion, Weston is asking the MMAH to, in their own words, determine whether an easier path forward through the development approval process can be achieved. The important question here is whether an easier path forward is both ethical and respecting of the provincial, regional, and municipal regulation that has been put in place to safeguard environmentally sensitive lands such as these. We believe it is neither ethical or respectful, and therefore wholeheartedly support the mayor's motion requesting that the province continues to support the town's position as well as the LPAT, now OLT, ruling. We respectfully ask that the rest of council to vote tonight in support of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Council, can I get a motion to receive and refer to 10.2? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Gallo. Any questions? Councillor Gallo, go ahead.
Thank you, George. I just wanted to once again thank you for your dedication and the time and effort that you spend on these types of things on behalf of the residents of the town of Aurora. I can't say it enough how appreciative I am personally and of the time you spend on these. And it really, as a volunteer, you must have an amazing wife. The amount of time you spend on these things. I just wanted to personally thank you for that, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner.
I echo Councillor Gallo's comments to you and to Wendy. And I sincerely thank you for just being so dedicated to protect something so important. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, George, I'm sure you'll hear more comments during the motion. So thank you very much for coming. And I think we all echo. Thank you. Council, I'll call the vote. That carries. Next, we have 6.7, Emily McIntosh and Jenna Weck. Is it Weck? Sorry. What? Okay, I pause. Yeah, 5 minutes and floor is yours.
It's just to honor the discourse and how important and significant this issue is.
That's fine. Councillor Thompson, moved. Councillor Gardner, all those in favor? Opposed? Like, floor is yours.
Of Nancy O'Brien. Nancy is one of the women directly affected by the gap in legislation that Bill 5 will address. Specifically, a gap that allowed former Ottawa Councillor Rick Chiarelli to retain his position and seek re-election despite 3 substantiated claims involving 4 women by 2 separate integrity commissioners that resulted in a cumulative 12-month suspension of pay. Over 20 women combined have come forward in the case of Councillor Chiarelli, anonymously to the media, the integrity commissioners, and publicly.
Don't worry, I won't count this against your time.
Hello, my name is Nancy O'Brien, and I, according to the Integrity Commissioner at the City of Ottawa, experienced incomprehensible incidents of harassment while I was working as a councillor's assistant for former Councillor Rick Chiarelli at the City of Ottawa. When I was first hired, I was in my mid-20s, and really it was my first kind of big job, like grown-up job, and I was really excited. I grew up very community-minded, and that I was going to be working in a role where I was being paid to support the community and help my community. It felt like a dream come true. But even though it's been 5-6 years since I left that office, I still experience nightmares, flashbacks, like intrusive memories, and I have been forever changed. I will never be the same person I was before I had that experience. I lived in fear while I was in the situation, and then after I left, I was afraid of speaking out because I didn't know what happened to my career. Rick Chiarelli was a respected member of the community who had been a city councillor for over 30 years. So I didn't think that anyone would believe me or listen to what I had to say. There's no accountability framework in the Ontario Municipal Act for misconduct. Although there are ways to unseat a councillor between elections for conflict of interest reasons, for absenteeism, there's nothing in there for misconduct other than losing 90 days of pay. Or they have to be in jail, behind bars. So even if they are convicted, unless it has to do specifically with the Ontario Municipal Elections Act, they get to keep their seat, even if convicted, as long as they don't end up in jail. That's the bar. This lack of accountability in the Ontario Municipal Act enabled a culture of silence, of whispered warnings, but nobody ever really talked about it openly. This needs to change. The women of Ontario say no. Please join us in our fight for equality. Everyone deserves a safe workplace. Everyone.
Right now, there is nothing to remove a councillor who has been found guilty of egregious acts of harassment. We're talking about claims of harassment that have been investigated and substantiated, and they are so egregious that the Integrity Commissioner would ask council to apply to the courts for removal. When we are talking about this today, I want you to keep in mind how passionate you were about that robotics team, because they are our future workforce, and they may be working in a municipal setting that deserves the same protection as every other workplace in this province. Bill 5 is about bringing elected officials up to the same standard as every other employee in this province, which means that you're accountable to violence and harassment in the workplace policies, and that if you violate those policies so egregiously, which we know is rare, and those claims are substantiated, that you lose the privilege to represent the people. Just like in any other workplace, everywhere else in the province, you would be terminated. To speak to your integrity commissioner's points, a lot of great feedback there. And our comment to that is it's premature. This bill is in its first reading. It has its second reading, May 16th. And then if it's voted and passed at that stage, then it goes to committee where we have extensive conversation about what needs to be considered, how it can be improved, and how things might play out. It is extremely problematic to put the focus on the pragmatism of a bill that isn't even passed, because we have nothing today to protect not just women, people today of all backgrounds. Your colleague had mentioned that this, accountability to violence and harassment in the workplace policies could be done by regulation. We wouldn't be here if that was passed. That hasn't happened yet. And in addition, it doesn't offer that opportunity for removal. Your colleague also noted that it would only be in the rare circumstances that they believe something would go to the courts. And yes, that costs more money, but those circumstances are rare. And also, I find it personally, but on behalf of this movement, problematic to apply a fiscal lens. We are talking about people and workplace safety, not manufacturing processes in a plant.
Taken from Jeffrey Abrams' LinkedIn, from his words himself, the overarching objective in appointing an integrity commissioner or ethics officer is to ensure the existence of robust and effective policies, procedures, and mechanisms that enhance the citizens' perception that their representatives meet established ethical standards, and where they do not, there exists a review mechanism that serves the public interest. There is no review mechanism. You are here because people believe that you're best suited to represent their interest, whose interests are best suited if there's no accountability for elected officials found guilty of the most egregious acts of harassment. Today, we are asking you to serve the public interest and do what is best for the people of the community. We're asking you to do your job, and we're asking for a motion of support, Bill 5.
You would be joining 26 other municipalities and counting. This is being rapidly picked up throughout the province because there is widespread recognition that if we don't name it, we can't change it. The understanding is that a motion of support for Bill 5 is a motion for an accountability structure. We will be rolling out meetings with our MPPs across the province, and the conversation there is, we're not married to Bill 5, nobody is. We would love nothing more than the current government of the day to take the content of Bill 5 and pass it as a government bill before May 16th.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Council, can I get a motion to receive and refer to, trying to see which item it is. Oh, 8.1.2. Thank you. Councillor Thompson, thank you. Councillor Gardner, any questions? No? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor, to both of you. Thank you so much for coming back and adding some comments to everything. So I know that we did have some questions. We did have you here before, and we did want to speak to their integrity commission and have a report. So it does, shed some light on the process. Also good to know that, what is being presented isn't set in stone, that there is still some work to do, and going into the next reading, and what do you need to do to amend that to make it work, and what makes sense. And to your point, having the accountability structure. So It is good that you guys are doing your homework that way. I am happy to speak to our local MPPs here as well and let them know what you are bringing forward and perhaps maybe connect you guys so you can have those conversations and maybe they can help guide you with some of the language and what those changes might look like as well. So I think it's good to at least be armed with, you know, what we can do to make this better so that accountability is in place. Thanks.
Thank you.
Because that's been a real challenge.
All right, I'll work on that. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. You spoke very well and you gave us some good information. And I especially want to thank you. You've come from quite a distance and you've waited quite a long time to speak to us. So it's appreciated. Thank you both.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming this evening. Right now, no, that we'll if someone will pull it, then we'll discuss it. I would just like to say that from my perspective, I would like the town to endorse it. So because I think that we can work through, as you mentioned, as we go through the second reading, third reading, royal sent, and then we go to the committees. We're still looking at Bill 23. Regulations still haven't come out on that, and we're still waiting to see the fine details of that. And so there's always work being done within those bills until we get to the final version of it. And so I think it's important that we send that message that workplace harassment is not acceptable in any form in our community. So I appreciate you for coming today. Thank you. Council asks for a vote. Kerr? That carried. Okay, council, I'm going to ask for consent agenda. That the consent agenda pardon? You can say we might we'll get to it. What we're going to do is I'm just going to ask for anyone that's going to pull any items. Then we're probably going to take a short little break because we have our health break for about 10 minutes, and then we'll be back and we'll deal with the items. Okay, perfect. So council, if I can get a motion for the consent agenda items 7.1 to 7.8 inclusive be received and approved. Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Gilliland. Not seeing anything, I'll call the vote. That carries. You want to do that one first and then go on well, it depends on how fast we get through pulling of the items. Any items anyone wants pulled? Councillor Gilliland.
8.1.2.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
8.2.1.
8.2.1. Okay. Anything else? Councillor Gardner?
8.1.3.
8.1.3. Okay. Anything else? No. Anyone? Councillor Thompson again? Well, you didn't mean that? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the remaining items in standing committee reports? Minus 8.1.2, 8.1.3, and 8.2.1. Linda, did you get that? Yeah, okay. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gao, Councillor Kim. I know it doesn't say it up there, but it will be. So. Does it say it? Okay. Okay. Call vote. That carries. Council, let's deal with 8.1.2 and then we'll go on our health break. Councillor Gilliland, you pulled that one. My recommendation would be just to endorse it and to send it to all elected officials that are listed in the recommendation. So, Councillor.
Oh,
Yep,
perfect. Thank you. Yes, I would definitely agree with that. I do think there's lots of work to be done, but this is the first step in showing our support that we need to address this and ensure that, there's some accountability. So I'm happy with what you just said, making sure that all the MPPs that were also copied, as well as all of the municipalities, to show our support. Anything else in specific that we should say? Supporting in principle, supporting.
It's to endorse the motion, and then it's basically the two alternatives that are both of them together, correct? Okay, so it'll be up in a second. I just need a seconder. Councillor Thompson, thank you. Let's go on. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions while we wait for the motion to be put up on the screen?
This one knows it includes.
There we go. Town of Aurora endorses Bill 5 and that a copy of the motion be sent to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Honorable Don Gallagher Murphy, MPP for Newmarket Aurora, Honorable Michael Parsa, MPP for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill, Honorable Stephen Bloss, MPP for Orleans and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Okay. Good. Call the vote. And that carries unanimously. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Mr. Abrams. Comment. Councillor, I'm assuming we can get through 8.1.3 quick. No? It's just in terms of reference, isn't it? Okay, 8.1.3. It's going to take some time. All right, I'll call break, health break, 10 minutes. Does anyone know where Councillor Gardner is? Oh, there you are. Councillor Gardner. Sorry, I didn't see it. We're starting again, and I need you because yours is up next. Okay, Council 8.1.3, Active Transportation Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. Councillor, did you want to move the recommendation out of? No? Anyone want to move the recommendation out of general committee? Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Weese, thank you. Councillor Gardner, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe we heard at the GC on the 7th that the terms of reference for the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee part was the same as it was in the past. And actually, it's quite different. There is nothing particularly dedicated to the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. And I'm just asking if we could add the duties and functions from the former Traffic Safety Advisory Committee.
And those would be?
I think Mr. Clerk has it to go on the screen. I could read it. It's.
Oh, let me see if I can get it up on the screen quickly for us, Councillor.
I mean, it just seems fair as it's a combined committee now. Or I could just read it.
Sorry, we're gonna have to get it up anyways because everyone's gonna have to see it.
Thank you.
So you're looking to make an amendment?
Or whatever the clerk thinks, however the clerk thinks I can do it.
Can I just see that? Councillor, you want me to read it for you?
Oh, sure.
Duties and function. So you want to change it to say duties and function to review traffic safety concerns identified by various stakeholders, including council, citizens, ratepayer groups, staff, and other interested parties. These concerns. How do I move your? Sorry, can't see the end of it.
This is directly from the terms of reference from the last committee.
There we go. Sorry. Something just popped up. This is why you don't use other people's computers. Ratepayer groups, staff, and other interested parties. These concerns may include, but not limited to, addressing the overall movement of traffic and traffic volumes on town roads, speeding concerns, traffic calming requests, highway safety considerations, parking restrictions, the application of school safety zones and community safety zones, and any alternatives and strategies related thereto. To promote strategies that will modify aggressive driving behaviors through public education and awareness, through the implementation of bylaws, police enforcement, traffic calming measures, and any other methods that have the effect of improving the general safety of the public at large by reducing accidents, property damage, personal injuries, and fatalities.
So that, yes, that's right out of what the former committee had.
From what year?
From the last year we had it.
2008? 2008, correct?
No, we would have had an election in, so it would have to be either 2010. Yeah, it might have been.
It
I
finished
might have
it for
been.
2010. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to make that change?
I would, because then it says what the committee.
Okay. Someone want to second that? Councillor Kerr? They need to type out that whole thing because it was sent to them as a picture, not a PDF or a Word.
Oh, it's from what?
No, I know, but our clerk has to actually type it out because it's a picture. It's not
from what he sent us. So if I pull up the email.
okay. So now this, and I'm hearing some questions. So just while we're waiting for this to go
Okay,
up,
sure.
Councillor, and I'm going to get a second. We got a Councillor Gallo. Were you willing to second it? Okay. I guess is this in addition to what's already there, or is this replacing what's already there.
What, no, this is the duties and functions.
Is there something already in the duties and functions section? Yes. So are you doing?
It's an addition.
This is an addition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody want to speak to the amendment? I agree, but we're going to get it up, but. Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, and I'll wait for him, but I guess, and I want to see the wording again. It's that very first line where it talks about the duties and functions, really about, addressing the concerns being put forward by the stakeholders, residents, et cetera. It's what's the process associated with it? It's all of a sudden now, because typically council's the one that refers these issues to the committees to deal with it. If the intent of that is added to the process where a resident can go and delegate to the advisory committee to put it forward and empower the advisory committee to do it, circumventing that process, I think that could be problematic. And so that's why I just want to see the language again and understand it. But that's not typically how we deal with issues being raised.
Councillor,
I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I'm going to get you to respond.
Always did deal with issues being raised. There were traffic safety advisory committees. I mean, I only started in 2003, so we had that year and then we had in 2006, but that is exactly the reason we had one, so that residents could come forward and speak to the committee and express their concerns, and could they be helped. So now that we don't have that committee, they would come to council and talk to us. I don't think that's our purpose. And we do have a policy, let people go to committee level first, see if it can be solved there.
Councillor, did you want to follow up? One sec.
It may.
Michael Thompson. Go ahead, Councillor.
I think my only concern is that it may overwhelm the committee, and I'm wondering or whether or not that was one of the reasons why it wasn't extended in 2010 to 2014 was one of the challenges with it. I don't know. And to be honest with you, I'd probably want to have some thought or look into it just to make sure that we're not setting up an expectation that we can't follow through and meet. That's all, right? Just to get a little bit more information from it. You never want to set anybody up to fail.
Yeah. Councillor Gardner.
Well, we have it on our agenda tonight. There's barely anything about the traffic safety part. I don't know. I know you can pull it up faster than I can.
The idea of, clarifying and expanding the scope of things they can look on. I think that's great. Like I said, it's just really the process in which we're identifying how the committee is going to function that concerns me without knowing that background information, or whether or not this was an issue and the reason why it wasn't continued. It's only something I would prefer to look into and satisfy my own concerns before voting on that aspect of it. But, I'm set purely at the will of council.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Councillor, I'm going to just move to Councillor Weese first. Councillor Weese, go ahead.
When I saw this first, I saw this is just an add-on. We're doing traffic and now we're doing the active transportation, and it's a big job. And really, I think the intent is to make sure that the traffic safety part of this committee is included in the terms of reference, not just active transportation. Perhaps we need a second. Active transportation and traffic control are two kind of different things in any way. They're not they're not similar. They tend to happen on roads and trails, et cetera, but maybe we need to think about amendment to the terms of reference to just simply add an active transportation committee. Because it's a big strategy. And there's a lot to it. So I only bring that through you, Mayor, to whomever you think we should go, but I would certainly support separating both traffic and active transportation. If we needed to have a committee to look at it, then it doesn't seem to be so overwhelming. I'm not experienced in the area, but I'm just I agree with Councillor Thompson that this is a big job.
I agree. And just so if anyone doesn't have it up, what it says right now is to support and advise town staff on initiatives and matters relating to the Planning and Development Services Department of the town, including trails, traffic, and engineering. And to support and advise town staff in the development and implementation of the active transportation master plan. Those are the duties and functions that are currently on the thing. So I just figure I'd read that out for everyone, just in case you haven't pulled it out. But Councillor Weese, anything else?
Well, since Councillor Gallo is the chair of this, I'd like to hear a little bit about how he's feeling about this, whether we need to split them or whether we keep them the same, because it's a big mouthful.
Councillor Gallo?
I'm feeling Councillor Weese should join me on the committee. I think we should also read the purpose, because it says the Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee is formed to support and advise town staff in various issues relating to the development and implementation of the Transportation Master Plan and the Active Transportation Master Plan, Aurora Connects. And this is, I think, the key sentence. The committee will provide support and advice in all aspects of traffic safety issues that affect the town of Aurora as a whole. So what we have, these additions, I think, are just expanding on that last statement. So I don't think this is anything new. I anticipated this type of thing to come forward. I don't want to change the structure. I don't think that's the intent of anyone, but if that last statement is all encompassing, this is just providing a little more detail to that last statement. So I don't think it's changing anything. I don't think this is adding anything to the committee will provide support and advice in all aspects of traffic issues that affect the town of Aurora as a whole. This is just expanding on that. I think we take it as it comes, and then we can tweak it as we go, because it's somewhat new. It may be too challenging, but I'm willing to give it a shot and see where it goes. And then if there's other councillors who want to join in.
I am ex officio. I can show up.
There you go.
There you
go, yeah. I foresee it being onerous, but
yeah,
let's try.
So, and my understanding, and maybe Councillor Thompson can correct me if I'm wrong, I think what his concern is that first sentence essentially out of that whole thing. I think that if you're correct, Councillor Gallo, if you start where it says these concerns may include but not limited to, that essentially is just describing what it's just going into detail what they're saying. But Councillor Thompson, if that's correct, it's the first sentence that's pretty much of a concern to you out of that. And so, yeah, that first, yeah. Well, sorry, yeah, it's kind of like a sentence with a, yeah, with a colon in it. So, but that I think is what Councillor Thompson's talking about. I think if we remove that, I think everyone is pretty much. Yeah, and I don't want to speak for Councillor Thompson, but I think what I'm hearing is that it essentially that first sentence could be construed as that people can just walk up to the committee, do a delegation about a concern where staff have never even heard of it. Yeah, and I think that's the concern that Councillor Thompson. So I think that's the concern that Councillor Thompson has, and that first sentence kind of can be construed in that way. And so that's why I think that he's raising those concerns. That's just what I'm hearing. So I'm just, yeah. I don't know what everyone wants to do. Councillor Gilliland? Yeah. Oh yeah, Councillor Gallo, sorry. Continue.
I don't think that's the appropriate process. As I've said before, I think it has to funnel through staff. Staff develops a report, comes to the committee, we discuss it, comes to council. You know, to me, that's how I envision it. If that's changing it, then I don't agree. I don't see that in there, but.
So I'll ask just to make sure, Mr. Clerk, how do you read it? Because essentially this is, you know, in your wheelhouse. So how do you interpret what's being said there?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. I do slightly worry about that first line. I've just had brief discussions with you. I think it's maybe a little bit of slightly bad faith to the committee to make them think that they're more involved or have more power in the situation of a traffic concern than they might. You know, our whole committee policy is written towards committees advising staff. So it's exactly as Councillor Gallo said, that a report from staff would come and the committee would, you know, give their thoughts on it. Not so much to be the first point of intake. That's how I see it, at least.
Councillor Gallo?
And I agree. I just don't know if that statement is suggesting that, if it needs to be tightened up. You know, I don't see it that way, but you know, I think we all agree on the process.
Thanks. Mr. Seo, did you want to add something?
Maybe, can I suggest that we say instead of to review, it could be to advise staff on traffic safety concerns identified by blah, blah, blah.
That's Councillor Thompson? You raised the concern, so I'm asking. That's why I'm
just trying to find the language.
If you're asking me, I'll give you my opinion.
Well, just wait 1 sec then. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Gilliland, you okay? You heard that? Okay. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Just listening to what everybody's saying, and I'm just going to chime in on the language here. So that first sentence, if it said to review traffic study, blah, 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 rapers, groups, and other interested parties presented by staff in that kind of a context. So meaning that anything that they're reviewing is presented by staff, by everybody that's in that group. That's just my suggestion. But the only other comment I was going to say is that, you know, to Councillor Gallo's point, that, you know, now that we have the 2-year term, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't change it in 2 years and say this isn't working, we need to change it a little bit. So at least there's some of that buffer to kind of give that time to see if that works. But I'm not so sure if that language would work, but perhaps you want to think about that, editing the end of that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Gardner, second.
I think the purpose of this committee, the Traffic Safety Committee, is for residents to come forward to present problems, not staff to come forward and present problems, if I'm understanding you correctly. It's to give the residents the feeling that somebody might be concerned about their issues and they want to speak to them. And then a report would go forward. I don't know how Councillor Gallo sees that. And I never sat on the committee, so I don't know. But I think people were just able to come and present. Now, it might be a better idea for them to have to make an appointment through staff so that at least we know what they're coming to speak about. No, yeah, I think we should just kind of play it by ear and see what happens. But I think there needs to, the staff, in the staff complement, it doesn't say anything about, it just says we have a committee secretary. Every committee that we have always has a staff person attached to it. So I don't know what staff person.
Staff liaisons will consist of staff from the Planning and Development Services Department. So there will be staff member from the Planning and Service.
Well, that really speaks more to the active transportation. We need a traffic analyst or somebody.
That's the whole department is that department is also with with traffic as well.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
So how would that work? Would they look at the,
I think our director would put the most appropriate person in that committee.
well, it would depend on what was being
Well,
discussed.
I would expect our director has the expertise to pick the most appropriate person for that committee.
But it could change from,
It could, and maybe, as we just said with everything else, we will evaluate and we can make minor changes here and there, Councillor.
okay, I think obviously the final word should go to Councillor Gallo.
Okay. Councillor Gallo, second.
Yeah, I think I said it multiple times that my view on how the structure should be that if a resident has an issue with traffic, they go to staff. Staff generates a report, comes to traffic safety. We discuss it. I think that's the most efficient way. I don't believe they should be coming straight to the committee and say, hey, this is my problem, because it may be a genuine problem, but we'd be spinning our wheels because all we do is say, staff, can you generate a report and come back to us? It's just, it's a step that's not necessary. And I don't think it's efficient for the committee to be working in that way. That's my view. And that's how I recall it the last time I was on it years ago, and I was on it. So that's how I see it. If the wording needs to be tweaked to reflect that, then I'm all in favor.
Mr. CEO, what was that wording that you recommended?
That the duties and function include to advise staff on
Traffic safety concerns. So instead of review, to advise staff on traffic safety concerns. And then the rest of it can all stay the same.
Yeah.
Councillor Gallo?
Because
Yeah.
Because the rest of it says the public can express their views on, if they have concerns, they can have every right to do that.
Yep. Absolutely. Councillor Gardner, you moved that. You okay with that? You're fine with that? Okay. Councillor Gallo, you seconded. You're fine with that? Okay. Any other comments or questions? So make that a friendly amendment. There it is. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's pretty long. Yeah, that was a friendly amendment. So I'll call a vote on the amendment then. That carries. Back to the main motion as amended. Councilor Gardner, did you have anything else? No? Okay, I'll call the vote. That carry? Let's ask me to vote again. I guess. That carries. Okay. 8.2.1. This is in regards to Archerhill. I'm not reading the whole thing again. This one's pretty long. Anyone want to move the recommendation? Councillor Thompson, I'm assuming you don't want to move the recommendation. Someone want to move it? Councillor Kim, second. Anyone? Councillor Gilliland, thank you. Councillor Thompson, did you just call it for a vote? Thank you. Call a vote. That carries. Okay, so we'll move to motions. First one. Which one's the first one? Oh. Motion in regards to the Affordable Housing Action Plan. Can I get someone to move that? Councillor Thompson, thank you. Seconder. Councillor Kim, thank you. All right. Councillor Thompson, if you don't mind, I'll start. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. So our official plan update is underway. And as part of this process, we can seize the opportunity to modernize our housing policies, use all the tools available to us to create action-focused policies that better enforce or ensure affordable and attainable housing for the next 30 years and beyond. And that is what this motion asks council to do, to seize the opportunity to increase access to affordable housing options through the development of an evidence-based, community-informed affordable housing action plan. There is a housing crisis in Canada, and community leaders across this country are responding to an urgent call to action on addressing that crisis. There's broad consensus that more must be done at the municipal level to move from policy to action. Now, Aurora can heed the call to action by developing our own Made in Aurora plan, an Aurora Affordable Housing Action Plan to address housing affordability in our community, both now and 30 years from now. We already have the building blocks for a workable plan. As members know, our official plan already includes policy options to foster the development of a diverse housing stock through the inclusion of affordable units and low-rise intensification in designated MTSA and along transit corridors. We have policies in place that encourage the growth of housing options to meet the needs of all residents, including young families and seniors. And these are great initiatives. But with provincially mandated projected growth of another 30% over the next 30 years, we are going to need to do more if we are to meet the housing needs of the future. Simply saying we need more affordable housing is not a plan. What we need is a plan for action. We need a Made in Aurora Affordable Housing Action Plan. Now, the official plan update allows us as a municipality to develop issue-specific plans designed to meet a community planning need. And clearly, access to affordable housing is a critical community need. But the success of that plan, any housing plan for that matter, depends on evidence-based action. So through the development of a collaborative, community-focused plan driven by engagement with residents, builders, community groups, local partners, and other stakeholders, the Aurora Affordable Housing Action Plan will provide clear objectives and measurable targets for affordable housing options that are specifically designed for implementation within the local Aurora community context. Thus, the addition of an affordable housing action plan to our official plan update is critical to ensure that we are proactively planned to meet the housing needs associated with growth in our community. The success of Aurora's Affordable Housing Action Plan will, of course, be dependent on our ability as a municipality to enforce it, to enforce our official plan. So unfortunately, we've seen time and time again provincial overreach into municipal governance matters, especially when it comes to land use planning decisions. From the increased scope of authority of the Ontario Land Tribunal to the increased as of right overdevelopment, the combined effect of recent legislation is the reduced authority of municipalities to plan their own communities. But in this case, I believe we will not meet any resistance to our official plan. We, the province and Aurora, are united in a common cause, increasing the availability of affordable housing and increasing access to a diversity of housing options. More family-sized rental units, more 2 and 3 bedroom units, more duplexes and triplexes, more low-rise density, more housing options that afford seniors the ability to age in place and newcomers to get a home to call their own. So we can seize the opportunity to use the tools available to us to develop a made in Aurora affordable housing plan and take another bold step forward in Aurora's movement forward to plan a responsible future. Councillor Weese.
Thanks. And I agree that this is very important for us to do, but the motion here is about the official plan review. So what is being suggested here is that we're going to focus on something called the Aurora Housing Action Plan, and it's going to be developed. Will that be developed alongside of the official plan while we're under this review, and it'll be a special case?
That'd be correct,
Do you?
Mr. Romano, if you want to.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I think the gist of the motion is to enhance the policies that we currently have in our official plan. And I think the one missing piece is to include language in the current official plan that speaks to developing a housing action plan with a bit more details, specifically, developing a strategy that provides the implementation mechanisms. So as part of this OP review, we can certainly, there's plenty of time to provide enhanced wording within the affordable housing section of the OP. And again, developing the housing action plan is something that we can certainly start on. I'm not sure how long that'll take. Again, there are other municipalities, upper and lower tier municipalities that have done it. We don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, but it's something that we can certainly, it'll be a standalone document, but there'll be additional language within the OP that speaks to developing an actual housing plan with more detailed information on how we, set those targets, the range and mix of housing types, identifying targets for specific sites within the within our intensification corridors, et cetera.
Councillor.
Thank you. That was my next question about the specific monitoring, measuring tools. And you're comfortable that we have those available from other municipalities who have been successful at implementing these types of things, and we can insert that into the official plan so that in the concept, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, but you think we can do that accurately and well?
Mr. Romano.
Through Mr. Mayor, yeah, I think we can. And again, that extra level of detail, I think, will form part of the actual housing action plan document.
Councillor.
And again, as you mentioned, we'll then be able to, moving forward, monitor the success of those targets throughout the years.
Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. My question's on the same lines with regards to how we were going to incorporate it into our current OP process. And so that's clearly been answered. So I'll use a little bit of my time then to just plug that the town's hosting an open house on the official plan on Wednesday evening, March 8th. Please come out and see the progress. And you could also provide comments and feedbacks with regards to the Affordable Housing Action Plan should this pass.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. And my question was along the same lines. It's asking that the scope of the town's official plan be expanded to include modernized housing policies. So just to be clear through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Romano, is this part of the scope that our current consultants could incorporate into, or is it something that we have to add to? Are there any costs associated with that?
Mr. Romano.
Through Mr. Mayor, no, it's not a huge undertaking to make amendments to our current wording in our official plan. I've already discussed it with our staff and our consultants. So it won't be an issue.
So if this was to move forward through you, Mr. Mayor, within the scope of our current contract with them, they could fulfill this.
Mr. Romano.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly updating the policies within the current official plan. Again, I think staff, I think we as staff have the ability to embark on the developing the actual housing action plan.
Councillor.
Outside of the official plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up, and I was going to ask the exact same question in regards to the scope and the cost and things that Councillor Weese had asked. But to follow up, is the concentration or the idea, the target where we're already going to be doing some intensification, say in the major transit area or the promenade plan, or various different corridors. Is that kind of the intention to kind of look there so we can strengthen those policies within those areas to help us, guide us, show us where this intensification would go?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our current official plan and within the affordable housing section does contain sort of targets now within our transit station area, 35%, 25% elsewhere. Again, I think the details will be in the action plan where we'll drill down to specific sites with respect to what perhaps a specific site, setting tangible targets with respect to the mix of housing, affordability level as well. It's something that we'll look at as well. We've seen other housing action plans that establish housing affordability, et cetera.
Councillor?
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ramuno. And just lastly, without having all the full regulations of Bill 23, are we able to develop a plan, not understanding the full scope of what that means?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't think we're going to be hindered by the Bill 23. Again, the provincial plans and the regional plans and our local plans all speak to affordable housing targets and ensuring there's a mix and range of housing types to meet all sort of affordability targets. So yeah, we're not going to be hindered by provincial legislation. I think that it's a mandate of the province and the region as well to set these targets and try and implement those targets.
Councillor?
Thank you. And just finally, and just as a comment through Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ramuno, just to take consideration of our new stable neighborhoods that we have implemented last term, and that perhaps that there should be some consideration to that area that might be different than other parts of the community.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make sure I understand this. So through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, when do we hope to have our official plan finished?
Mr. Ramuno?
To you, Mr. Mayor, as Councillor Thompson mentioned, we've issued our latest draft, open house March 8th. I think we're still on target to schedule our statutory public meeting sometime in April and present the final draft to council for consideration in May for adoption. So our target was always May, June 2023. So we're on track.
Thank you. So in the official plan, we'll be talking about the affordable housing action plan, but we won't actually have it in place by then. That's a question through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if we'll have it ready by May or June, but we'll certainly do our best to put something together. But again, I think the key component here is to include that language in the official plan with the intent to then develop the actual housing action plan.
Councillor?
Thank you. So it won't actually be in the official plan. It'll be a companion to the official plan.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Thank you.
Somewhat of a secondary plan. Somewhat of a secondary.
But thank you. And we do put secondary plans into the.
The
official
wording will
plan.
be in there. That's why Mr. Ramuno said the wording will be in there.
I'm very glad to see this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're talking about affordable and attainable housing. I always thought affordable housing was something that the region did. So is the intent to work with the region to have some affordable housing in Aurora or more? I mean, we already have some co-ops, but to have.
Well, and Councillor, I mean, Mr. Ramuno can expand upon this, but what you're describing is more subsidized housing.
Okay.
You're
But
talking about community housing, housing you're subsidized, that's subsidized housing.
okay, thank you. The model that I live in, a co-op, that's not subsidized
Okay,
housing,
yeah,
but that's more affordable.
yes.
So, and we're not under the region,
No, we can,
but that would mean some land. Thank you. So through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, when the consultants were here, they were saying that the area around the GO station is meant to be more affordable housing. And I asked if we could actually do that, and they said it was up to the developers to want to do that. Do you have any comment on that?
Mr. Romero?
To you, Mr. Mayor. So the targets in the regional plan and our current official plan speak to identifying our a minimum of 35% of all new development within new residential development around our major transit station area, being the GO station, to be affordable housing, and 25% target elsewhere. So, I mean, again, it's always a challenge because we don't necessarily have the financial tools, as Mr. Mayor mentioned. You know, there's really two types of subsidized housing. It's either, government sponsored housing, such as York Region housing that builds government housing, or community-based sponsored housing, like the co-op model. Our official plan speaks to, again, and the action plan will speak to working with the community groups as well as the development industry to, again, achieve those targets, identify sites, suitable for affordable housing, whether it's, up and down the promenade, major transit station area, and hoping that, we meet those targets that based on a mix and range of unit types. And of course, the more compact form of development will reduce the unit land cost and hopefully get down to that affordability factor.
Right.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mino. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, affordable and attainable housing can be seen as a euphemism for public or subsidized housing, and some people don't know what the difference is, regardless of whether we call it affordable housing. I find that the next greatest challenge for developers of affordable housing after insufficient funding is NIMBYism. As we all know, as we witnessed recently, NIMBYism is alive and well everywhere. And I hope that the Affordable Housing Action Plan incorporates some plan as to how we're going to overcome this phenomenon, because there's no point in having an action plan unless the plan includes education and how we're going to convince local residents to take part in this affordable housing action plan. So I hope that's included in the action plan as well. That's all.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. That carries. Next motion, this is in regards to Henderson Drive, 672 and 684. Councilor Gardner, did you want to move this for me? Thank you. Moved by Councilor Gardner, second. Councilor Thompson, thank you. Councilor Gardner, if you don't mind, I'll start. Thank you. I think this is pretty much straightforward. We've all gone through this. At the end of the day, what the letter that was sent is pretty much asking for the province to circumvent our process. Essentially, it's asking them to. It's almost as if they're asking for an MZO, and we've heard from the province time and time again that they would never move forward without the will of a council, without the support of a council. And so therefore, I think it's very important for us to send back a message that we disagree with the letter that was sent by the I guess you could call them the applicant or the property owner or their solicitor, looking at as of right development on those lands without following the proper process. So essentially, that's why I put this before us, so we can send that message to Minister Clark as well as the Premier, and let them know that this is where the town of Aurora stands when it comes to this specific issue. And we would like for them to stand by us and continue to support not only our town's ruling, but also the tribunal's ruling as well. So it's that simple. Councillor Weese.
Thank you. I kind of disagree with what was just said. I think the intent of this is to ask them not to support an MZO. Because what this suggests, number one, is that they're not going to permit residential development as of right on these lands. But does this, and perhaps through Mr. Ramuno, suggest that if the proponent comes with an application for those properties, we will not entertain them? Or we're not allowed to entertain them? Are we violating property rights of the new owners? Because I understand this is a new owner and they may have rights to make an application and we don't know what that application even is yet. So through you to Mr. Ramuno.
Mr. Ramona, if you want, I mean, you can expand upon it. I don't mind answering. So Councillor, absolutely anyone can put forward an application at any time. And they would continue to be able to put forward an application. This is using the language actually right out of the letter from the or the solicitor, whoever the property owner, that they specifically said to allow for as of right development on these properties. So I'm basically lifted the words right out of their ask to the province and ask the province to continue to support their position or do not amend and give them essentially the rights to build on that by circumventing our process. They need to, if they want to build, apply to the town as anyone else. And that application would come to a public planning meeting. We can have that discussion here in front of the public. We can vote on it as council and council makes a decision. And if we agree with them, then they can move ahead. If we don't, then they can appeal that decision. And that's the proper process. And all we're asking from this is for the minister and for the premier to continue to uphold that and make sure for them not to get involved and circumvent the process. Mr. Ramona, did you want to add anything or did I miss something or did I not?
No, to you, Mr. Mayor, that's my understanding. I think it's their request through the letter to the ministry was, I think, for the ministry to recognize within our official plan, as of right, where essentially they could then just proceed to a building permit stage. Our current zoning bylaw has a provision in it that requires any, like it did when they first applied a number of years ago, that we require a rigorous review process with respect to submissions of natural environmental studies to evaluate any potential development to ensure that there are no negative impacts on the environmental features. So I think that's the intent here is, and staff has, responded similarly that we wish to, maintain our current process. And again, this request is really, the way I understand it, the applicant's request was to include some sort of modification in our official plan that would give them a right to proceed to building permit to circumvent our planning approvals process, which is submission of minor variance application with all the background studies that would be required to review any future application.
And Councillor just asked, so if you did give them as of right, if they were able to get as of right, as Mr. Ramona mentioned, they would just be able to go straight to a building permit, not have, wouldn't have to apply and they wouldn't have to go through the public planning process.
Again, so my comment is that they should set aside the letter and the request from Weston Consulting. And that's what we're asking, because we do not want them to have as of right privileges. We simply want them to respect our own planning responsibilities here in our town. And we also have to provide the rights of the property owner to make those applications. So I think this goes just a little further than what we really want, or at least what I'm interested in, which is I want them to set aside the request, but this says to support the town's position as well as the OLTL ruling and not permit residential development. So I just think I'd like to see the property rights of someone coming forward to an application to be respected. And I don't know if it's even legal for us to restrict that at this point. So my question then through you to Mr. Ramuno, does the proponent, the new owner, have a right at this point to create an application and come forward with that application? And do we have any inclination as to what the proponent is intending to do?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, they haven't, we haven't seen an application. I mean, they would have the right to submit an application. I guess, I'll let our solicitor weigh in on this. The board, the board hearing on this was a couple of years, 2-3 years ago, 2020. There's something that if they did come in with an application, whether we'd want to consider whether there's an abuse of power in trying to submit an application that was just decided upon, 2-3 years ago. Again, in my experience, enough time has passed, perhaps that, again, I'll let the solicitor weigh in on that. But again, we don't have an application before us yet. They haven't indicated that one is forthcoming, but I think what they're trying to do here is to avoid having to go through that process they went through a number of years ago by trying to get something codified in our official plan.
Thank you.
Councillor?
Any comments from our solicitor?
Mr. Serio?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have any further comments. The way the motion is written is, as everyone suggests, that they can still apply. It's just that they will not, they have to apply if they want to get rezoning or other approvals.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm just going to add something just to bring maybe everyone to have an understanding of what's happening. Everyone knows what happened at Wellington and Leslie. Province stepped in and they just, a stroke of a pen, they said you can build minimum 12 stories. Well, that's what we're telling the province by doing this. We're telling them, we don't want you by a stroke of a pen to allow this without coming before this body here. So that's what we're doing. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I don't have much to add, just to with regards to the second clause. As a courtesy, I think you should also include our local MEP, the Honorable Michael Parsa. It's also in his riding, just so he's aware of it as well. Whether or not you want to extend that to the Honorable Don Gallagher Murphy as well, that's fine. But in principle, I certainly support the motion.
Okay, yeah, we can add those. Can we add those two names in? Councillor Gardner, you're fine with that? And Councillor Thompson, you're fine. You seconded, so you're fine with that. Okay. Oh, so we'll just add it, and then I'll move to Councillor Gallo. I'm just making sure. You never know. It is late. Councillor Gallo, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, you stole my thunder in terms of how I see this is basically a significant nudge to Minister Clark to say, don't do it again. To me, that's how I see this. And just my perspective to Councillor Weese, it does say that the town of Aurora requests the province continue to support the town's position, as well as the OT ruling for 672 and 684 Henderson Drive to not permit residential development. You could stop it there, but you have to read the rest of it. It says as of right. And I think that's a significant part, that absolutely, we couldn't even legally stop someone from submitting an application, even if we wanted to. But we're saying not as of right. Do not step in and do not circumvent our process.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I view this, and I agree with it.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? We are adding in our two MPPs names in there, so I'll just call the vote. Are they in the midst of typing that in, Mr. Clerk? Sorry. Okay, we have those two names in, so I'll call a vote. Councillor Gardner. That carries. Okay, next. 10.3, Councillor Gilliland and Councillor Weese. Councillor Gilliland, you move as is?
Yes, please.
Please, Councillor Weese, second. Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the overwhelming support from the pickleball community. Daphne Reed, president of Pickleball Ontario. She couldn't come tonight, but she did submit a letter of support, as well as her colleague, Junior Bent, who also sits on the board of Pickleball Canada. Elevation Athletics as well, I want to shout out because he was here in the crowd and he's the one that grassrooted the Newmarket Pickleball League and is now an official association, was also in the crowd. I noticed over there, which was great. I just wanted to thank everybody for showing up. I'm sure many of us have had our own stories that pickleball has snowballed so quickly that it's really hard to keep up. And I was first introduced to this sport in late summer 2019, where friends were egging me on to try this out. Needless to say, I bought some inexpensive paddles to give it a go, but unfortunately the weather kind of turned and my curiosity had to wait till next spring. And well, unfortunately, we all know what happened in 2020. So everything went on hold. As time went on, as things opened up, pickleball was quickly one of the fastest growing sports that was ramping up as soon as the pandemic would allow. So much so that the York Curling Club in in Newmarket, I wish we had one in Aurora, but we don't. They decided to convert their ice rinks in the summer because they weren't using it for curling and convert it to pickleball. And it was not that far off that it became a very popular place that many people had decided that that was their next venue to have some more organized leagues. What I was very, very, I guess, fathomed by that, I was contacted by various pickleball fans, both new and current, and asking for more. But what was different about all these conversations that I'd had over the last 3 years is that there were all different circles of people who were describing the fun, the confidence, and people were engaging in this sport very, very differently. And it just wasn't one specific group. And I was like, we're on to something here. This is just not one pickleball group in a small corner of Aurora. This was all over the place. So I knew I needed to help push this forward. It's no secret that's the fastest growing sport in North America. Everywhere I turn around, no matter where I go, whether I'm traveling in the States, there's a new pickleball court. And what's interesting as well, that after speaking to a lot of people, is that you would think that the sport was for seniors, but in fact, the average median growing age is 18 to 44. And I think one of the delegates also had said that each time that they review these numbers, that median age keeps dropping. So what I've heard from some people is the confidence that they see in kids as well, and how quickly that they're gravitating towards a sport. It's no longer a sport just for seniors, but a very diverse group. Now, I do realize we are working on Parks and Rec Master Plan, and I do support developing a plan through this. But I do believe that we need to make this a priority now. For the last 18 months, I felt like we've been asked to wait for this plan to come out. And I just don't think that we can afford to be losing out on this 2023 season. So long as we can find some opportunities, I'd like to have staff look for these creative opportunities for more court space, whether it be multi-use tennis courts, improve our current pickleball courts. As you can see, some people had pointed out that the current courts aren't up to snuff for whatever reasons, but I'm no pro. Could be school gym partnerships, corporate collaboration, and underutilized buildings or parking lots, such as the Rono location, even if it's temporary. I know this is not a long-term vision, but short-term goal. Reality is we want to get some more open courts going on for the 2023 season and something that's going to be economical. As many delegates stated, there's plenty of diverse need, not only in sport, but also mental health, exercise, confidence building for all ages in sports tourism. Tonight, we've been offered so much support in kind from both experts and the community to assist us in creating these opportunities. And I hope my colleagues agree that we need to get the ball rolling now. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. I'll be supporting this. I just have two questions. The first, through you, Mr. Mayor, to staff. When will we be expecting the draft Parks and Rec master plan?
Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, currently the draft master plan is due on April 4th, General Committee, with the anticipated final plan for June 6th.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, can you give us a peek review of the extent to which pickleball is part of that plan?
Ms. McDougall.
Certainly, there definitely is a focal point within the plan. It's certainly one of the identified sports and recreational amenities that we want to focus on. So already the plan in draft form is suggesting this is the path we need to go. It certainly requires additional strategy as far as where the best suited locations are. That has some recommendations, but that needs to be vetted and conversations within those various communities. And or if there's to be repurposing opportunities for tennis or additional lines, obviously there's another community of sport users to be considered there if we're going to be adjusting their complex or their asset. So it definitely is a focal point to your original question.
And I don't want to get too far into that, but just very high. Is the focus on a specific facility for pickleball or combination of multi-use facilities?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it definitely has recommendations to consider any future park developments, to consider within the neighborhood community to add pickleball. However, it also recommends a complex of a minimum of 6 pickleball courts.
Councillor.
Okay. And just the second part, as far as the first point, if it moves forward, will staff be, taking into consideration, as Ms. McDougall already said, there are other user groups, and if we're combining things to, take a big picture, what I don't want to do here is create more problems. So we have to be very strategic in terms of understanding the current use and figuring out where that balance is, that we don't disrupt the current users, but at the same time, and understanding that there's something new happening, and we have to figure out a way to work that in. So I'll just leave it at that obviously staff needs to take that into consideration, and we can't upset one group in favor of another, even though the momentum may be shifting.
Thank you. Councillor Weese.
Naturally, I'm in support of this, and Councillor Gilliland and Councillor Gallo have done a great job of identifying some of the issues and the opportunities. I want to be clear that we need to do this. There's some urgency on it. And the only reason we need to do urgency is because if we don't do it from a municipal standpoint, and we provide services for these hundreds of people that are expecting us to provide that, then the commercial aspects are coming in. I've already had 2 people approach me about putting in a dome for courts and the rest of it. The court costs there upwards of $35, $50, and $60 per hour. And that'll mean that this will be a sport that can only be used effectively by those people who have money to be able to pay for it. So I think it's critical that we get in our paddles in the water here and start doing something so that we can meet the needs of the recreation people here in this community, because it's evident from what was said that that's just a good return on our investment of money in the health and the fitness and the social aspects of this. So I'm in favor of this naturally, and I just would like to see some movement. And I was actually quite surprised at the experts saying that the best thing for you to do is just to create a pickleball facility, as opposed to try to work out the complexities of tennis versus pickleball, because we've seen that in soccer versus rugby and everybody else who wants to use a rectangular field. So I think it may be one of those unique circumstances where we have to look at a dedicated facility rather than try to work and worry about the causing some problems between the two groups. We've already had problems with tennis players who are involved in a tennis club and then they're not available, tennis courts aren't available for the recreation use of our people. So I just like to avoid that as all possible.
You. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Gardner.
I thank Councillor Gilliland and Councillor Weese. I think we really do need to take this seriously. My question is about number one. I don't know. I guess it would be through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McDougall. Can you see any way we can get something going for this spring, summer season this year?
Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. To be honest, it's not just solely me. It's my counterpart here and his team.
True.
Who oversees the development and management of our outdoor sports fields, to know what would be possible and where sites could be. So it is drawing on another department and the resources to be able to achieve that. And then ultimately what needs to be done in order to make it happen. Even if there's a preferred site figured out, it's what is needed to make that happen. Obviously, I would love to see it. I'm afraid about making that commitment and promise about how much we can achieve within the next few months in order to satisfy for this coming summer. Just a caution.
Councillor.
Thank you. There is, I don't see it here, but there is a park that has been identified for possible sharing with tennis. If we were going to do something like that, would we have to consult the residents in the neighborhood? How would we know how well used the courts are?
Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly if we're going to consider going the path of sharing, even if it's a pilot project, that community of tennis users needs to, in my opinion, needs to be consulted. In fairness to them, they didn't see this coming as they head into their summer recreational opportunities. As far as the neighborhood goes and the concerns raised, we heard today, it is documented. There has been shared in Niagara-on-the-Lake was an example where they had imposed or added lines for pickleball. Subsequently, in fact, it went to a court and the municipality was forced to disengage pickleball from that site so that tennis could be remaining the priority for that site. So it's a sensitive subject when it comes to not so much, it's one aspect to share, but it's another aspect when it comes to the noise factor, as noted. It is not only a noisy sport, but it's a social sport, which is a good thing. It's just the right environment that is suitable. And that would be something we'd have to discuss with the ops staff to decide what would be best proposed. We do have pickleball courts, and although it's noted as we only have 2, we technically have 9. When you consider the shared opportunities that exist, there are already 3 shared sites and 6 independent pickleball courts. However, there's limitations and certainly based on the feedback we've heard, there's aspects that maybe we need to be looking at to improve the level and quality of those sites, whether it is the perimeter fencing, the surface. My caution is what can we implement before the summer? Ideally, we improve those dedicated pickleball courts, because then you're not implementing or creating a conflict with the tennis. It's just what is needed in those sites to make them suitable that the users will be happy, because ultimately I don't want to rush it and it to become still subpar for what they're expecting.
Councillor.
Thank you for that answer. I'd like us to try and do whatever we can to increase, to be able to increase use for this spring, summer, or certainly this summer. So I'll leave that with you and Mr. Downey.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I guess my only one question, I agree with Councillor Gallo, like if it's, I mean, it's definitely needed and we need to look at it, and I'm looking forward to the Parks and Rec master plan to come back and what we can look at as far as having some concrete steps into developing a permanent pickleball courts within our community, because there is value, but I think it shouldn't be at the detriment of another organization or another sporting, whether it's tennis or however we go about it. I just wanted to also just maybe have everyone have an understanding of what and even council of what are the what can we expect as far as as far as timelines, as far as when would something come back to us? Is it we want to be realistic and allow the residents to have full understanding of how long this is going to take to get something back to council. If we are going to look at combining, or do we have to now go out to the tennis organizations, hear their comments? So it's not just a simple process as just let's just go put some lines out there and I think so. Maybe if you can, Mr. McDougall, I would love to hear what those timelines are and the expectations that everyone can expect.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, ultimately, I can only speak for my side of this resolution as it relates more so to number 2. Number 1 is more so in the operations division about their capability of turning around based on their capacity within current staff supports. I know on our side with the master plan as one of the major projects my team is working on, that is a council driven priority. We want to get that done and through. There's a number of other ones that the staff are working on, some of which our council asks that they have asked staff to work on. So we're cautious about managing that expectation as well, about what we can turn around and deliver. So as far as number 2, as long as it's understood, we're working towards a plan for that master plan that will work towards a capital project proposal for 24 through 26. I feel I'm on a path I can achieve that for budget. It's number 1 that I will look to my colleague for comment related to what is possible for this summer related to how we can implement something in due time.
Mr. Downey.
So thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, or to you, Mr. Mayor. So from our perspective, it's a process issue. I hope we learned some lessons with regards to the dog park and where we're putting dog parks. And as much as we say we need them and we want them, or we have to engage the community. So it's a process issue. We need to, first of all, identify some sites. We need to bring those sites to council. We then need to go to the community to find out if there's any objection to putting those in. We now have another layer of scrutiny, and that's the Parks and Recreation Committee, and we need to determine whether or not this goes to the Parks and Recreation Committee, which is then another layer, and any comments that come for that. Then, depending on where that goes, if there are any budget implications, then we would be presenting those. I am concerned about the processes that we go through in order to ensure that we have the community engaged, we have them involved. They have an opportunity to raise any concerns or objections, and that council has an opportunity to listen to those and make decisions. So I don't see this as a quick process, quite frankly. As much as people want to play, if we are looking at repurposing or adding on to existing facilities, so relining existing tennis courts, that's going to raise some issues with the particular user groups, and they need to be communicated with. If we're building brand new ones, that's a capital issue, and we need to put them someplace, and we need to make sure we get a community involved in the placement of those, because it is an active sport. It's loud. People come to this, so they're going to be bringing their cars. They're going to be bringing their families. They're going to be there for a long period of time. They're going to be there almost every single day. They're going to be there on weekends. They're going to change the atmosphere of that particular area, and that's the concern. As you know, the delegate from Richmond Hill said best thing to do is put it in an industrial area. Those are not the areas that we are generally look at to provide recreation facilities that people want to use in their neighborhood. So we have some challenges ahead of us in order to provide these courts, whether quickly or in long term. I know the master plan, Ms. McDougall and I were talking. They recognize the need for pickleball. They recognize the need to have a number of courts in a one location. Everybody here in the delegation seems to think that's a good idea. We think that's a good idea too. Issue is where.
Thank you. Pascal, second.
My same questions, timing. I wanted to get a sense from staff's timing. So thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, second.
Thank you. Just listening to some of the comments and concerns, and I guess I just want to make some comments that, status quo, in my opinion, is just not good enough. Like 2 courts. I mean, I know you're saying that there's some comments that there are more, but clearly they're not playable. So even for the 2023 season, if we're creative, we're bringing them up the stuff that are more playable. Let's collaborate with the experts and the people in the community that say, why are these not working for us? So if there are 6 courts, then let's get them up working so they can actually utilize them properly. I don't think we need to really overcomplicate this. This could be like a temporary, for pilot for the summer as we're trying to get things moving. Doesn't need to be something that's permanent for the following season because we have the Parks and Rec master plan, but clearly we got to look at some creative opportunities. I don't know what they look like, but that's what this motion is asking staff to do. I'm sure that I'm more than welcome to collaborate with pickleball people in the community, Pickleball Canada. I know Councillor Weese knows some people in the community as well that's willing to step up. So as I mentioned in my motion, there are a lot of people generously in kind willing to help and guide with some creative opportunities that I don't want to leave on the table. And maybe it's not as many as that we're going to want or desire to have immediately, but we got to do something. So yeah, temper our expectations. We might not get that many more, but we got to try.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All vote. That carries. Thank you. Next, 10.4. Councillor Gilliland, this is yours. Would you like to move it?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Weese. Councillor Gilliland, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. The motion's pretty straightforward. Aurora has proven to be a great growing community of hockey fans, emerging players and residents with talents such as Connor McDavid, Barclay Goodrow, and Junior Panther Abby Looney. And I believe our town should continue to highlight and celebrate the great hockey talent we have right here in Aurora in our backyard. Now, to attend an NHL game, I'm sure it's no surprise it can be very expensive. I looked online, and for a family of 4, that could run you over $1,000 for a night, $500 for a couple, and that's really unreachable for a lot of us. And that doesn't include parking, transportation, snacks, beverages, or dinner. However, let's look at some really great opportunities where couples, friends, and families can cheer on great talent, enjoy a beverage at the Aurora Community Center, which is the hometown rink to the Junior A Tigers, who fully support the town inquiring on the feasibility of a permanent LCBO license, much like other municipalities. Jim Thompson wanted to be here today. He wanted to delegate. Unfortunately, he is in Florida and celebrating a family birthday party. There was a letter that was sent through email to all councillors showing the support. So I just did want to make sure that I shared that with you all tonight. Just like any form of entertainment, like a football game, Jays game, a movie or a concert or a play or other venues like this, they do offer licensing. And why not look at the feasibility of doing the same at the ACC while supporting our favorite high-level team? This won't be the first venue we look at. In fact, the town square might also be an opportunity to explore as well. Our town has also developed sports tourism strategy to enhance the visitor experience. Families and friends or couples may see this as an opportunity, as an elevated experience, much like an NHL game, and perhaps an increase in local pregame dinner reservations. Staff have supported doing more research on this possibility. What are other communities doing? How is it structured? What are the legalities? What changes need to be made to our policies to make this work? How are they doing it there? These are a few of the questions I hope staff aim to answer through this process, and I'm confident there's much more to learn. So let's start. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Weese?
Yeah, I just want to
Oh.
support.
Yeah, go ahead. No, sorry.
Okay, won't take long. I just want to support this motion. I also spoke to Jim Thompson, who's I know very well. And if those of you who know Jim Thompson, he wouldn't take this lightly, this decision. And his response to me is that at this level of sport, this is entertainment. So any of those people who are having problems with marrying sport with alcohol and all the rest of it, I think that's a misnomer. What we're really talking about is providing an entertainment opportunity, and entertainment means customer service, and it means bringing people into this town. And if we're serious about our sport tourism strategy, then it ought to include something that has to do with licensing and alcohol, particularly at that facility that is a showcase facility for our community. As aged as it is, it's still our premier place. So I'd like to support this motion.
You, Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I'm in support as well of investigating and seeing what other communities do. My understanding is that it would be the alcohol that would be served would be beer and wine. I wouldn't be in favor of a full bar, but it is a very interesting idea, and I'd like staff to investigate it further. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. That carries. New business. Councillor Weese.
A couple of questions that I thought was already done, but I understand through my research they're not. It has to do with community safety zones. I've had 2 schools reach out to me about traffic and speeding and improper behavior around schools. I recall this when we did Activate Aurora and we did the walk to school. We had police around there because parents just seemed to be having behaviors that weren't very safe. So one of these schools has reached out to me, and I've asked around about the community safety zones. And I'm just wondering if it shouldn't be something that we include in that every elementary school should be a community safety zone, just simply because of the traffic on drop off and pickup. And I'm really quite surprised that we don't have community safety zones at every elementary school. So I'd like to consider that as something that will come forward in a motion very soon. It may be something that Councillor Gallo and the Traffic and Safety Committee would want to explore a little bit further, but I don't know how to get that started. But I think it's something I'd like to bring up as a safety item. And we all know that our residents are very safety conscious. And when I was out campaigning, I hear people that say, here's a pocket of problems and another pocket of problems, where people are rolling through stop signs, they're doing illegal U-turns, they're speeding, and parents are just, and one of them came from our crossing guards who came up to me and said, we really have to do something about this because she's emotionally upset about what she sees and the behavior of parents. So I'd like to find out a little bit more about community safety zones and how they're created, and if we can get them done on every elementary school street.
So I'll have you, if you can discuss that with Mr. Ramuno, but I would suggest Councillor notice a motion for that. And then we can put it to the committee as well.
Thank you.
From there. Thank you. Anything else? Oh, Councillor Gilliland, new business.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, I understand that Metrolinx is having a meeting on Wednesday, March 1st from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Family Leisure Complex. Is somebody through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Bruno, is somebody from planning also going to be there to attend?
Mr. Romero?
I'll have to look into that. I know there was an upcoming meeting. I didn't realize it was at March. Did you mention March 1st?
Wednesday, I believe it's Wednesday, March 1st from 2 to 4 p.m.
Councillor, one sec, Mr. CEO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that's just like a opportunity, like the staff sit there with a table and some brochures. It's not a meeting. I don't believe the meeting is later with the Town Park Ratepayers Association later in March.
Councillor?
And we will be at that meeting.
Okay, I just didn't know if perhaps this is a meeting for the public to kind of come and anybody could show up. I'm not so sure what to expect. If it's just a table with asking questions, if it's just conducive to just Metrolinx, or if whether or not staff was also going to be there as well. But from what I'm hearing, staff is not going to be there. It's just going to be Metrolinx for the public to come and ask questions directly to Metrolinx.
It's Metrolinx, yeah.
Okay. And the Ratepayers Association, that's a Ward 1 thing, I guess. Okay.
Councillor Weese, did you have something else?
Yeah, just confirm that is a pop-up, and I've been speaking to Metrolinx because of the issues around the tracks, the double construction and the rest of it, but I don't anticipate there's going to be very many senior people there doing it. This is going to be just a Metrolinx public relations opportunity to meet people. I am, however, telling people that if they want to have a couple of questions, they ought to bring those questions to the pop-up.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, did you have anything else?
Thank you. Just a reminder that, and I know this has been a lot of conversation about community safety, and I'm not going to have another opportunity to repeat this, but I am hosting a crime prevention presentation with YRP crime prevention officer, as well as a couple of different detectives that'll be there to ask questions. There are topics of interest, which is the robberies, car thefts, and home invasions. But again, the other detectives will be there on site to ask any questions outside of that. And I just think it's important to make sure people know that's on Sunday, March 5th at 6:30. Through Mr. Mayor to, I don't know if this is Mr. Downey or Ms. McDougall. They will be requiring, I just want to confirm, a computer or laptop to hook up. I want to make sure they have access to Wi-Fi and some wires that'll be there. So I'm not running around on a Sunday evening, not having access to this stuff. Is that something that is currently available? I just don't want to be blindsided when I get there.
Ms. McDougall?
It certainly should be, but I think if you wish to send me a quick email on what your needs are, and then I'll follow up with staff to verify.
Councillor?
Thank you. Other than that, I know there are no PSAs, but it would behoove me if I didn't at least let people know that, the Aurora Cultural Center is having a singer, Amanda Room, at the Armory this Saturday, March 4th. And I really encourage everybody to go out and see this intimate performance. And at the Royal Rose Art Gallery, they're having the Art of Storytelling exhibition as well from 1 to 3 in the Hillary House, which is also in Ward 2, where they have a Scouts and Girl Guides offering great program. And the other great thing is that they're offering free youth mentorship programs for grade 9 to 12. They can earn volunteer hours and even develop a team for exhibitions that they can put together with their peers. So it's just a really interesting thing. I think is great for people to know, and especially as March break's coming up, that they might want to get involved.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, new business?
No.
No. Councillor Thompson? Councillor Gallo? Councillor Ken? I just have one. If anyone knows or has been reading the news, the federal government has blocked the video sharing platform TikTok from all federal government devices. Our staff is looking at the same thing, but possibly bringing a ban on TikTok on all government devices here at the municipal level as well. So we'll have more of an update for everyone as staff continue through that process. So just wanted to make you guys aware of that. Confirming bylaw. Councillor Gallo, Councillor Gilliland. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gardner, Councillor Thompson, all those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.